Hey, that's better. I'm sure you can hear me now. What's up, everyone? Thanks for tuning in to the stream. Yes, this is another one of these like impromptu kind of thingies, right? I'm gonna maybe what I'm gonna do here is talk for a while. We'll just shoot the shit back and forth, a little bit of discussion about different stuff I wanted to talk about with some of the gaming news and specifically stuff I just want to talk about. You know what I mean? Like things have been on the mind a lot about stuff going on with relevant topics coming up with Starfield, maybe a little bit of ABK stuff. Other things I want to talk about, like some games that really need some free updates out there that have been. I feel like so many other games have been getting updates and all these things, and some of the ones that should be the most obvious have been left by the wayside. Besides that, after this, you'll see maybe I'll hop into some Midnight Suns or something and play some games. But shout out to the chat. Thank you all for tuning in here. Welcome to the Fun Speculation channel if you're new. If you like the content that we do here, hit that like button, share, and subscribe to the channel. I appreciate each and every one of you. If you hit the notification bell, you'll be alerted whenever we go live as well. So, yeah, I maybe we'll do some Q&A too a little bit. I did a Q&A a few weeks back and it went pretty well. We had a lot of great conversations. So, Jasper said he was just watching Storm coverage and playing Destiny, nothing on tonight. Yeah, Tom said there's literally nothing to watch video wise. Netflix, nothing. Then Matt swoops in with a stream to save the day. Yeah, I appreciate that. Dakata's rewatching Bleach. I know Steel Rain's in the chat here too. Don't get Steel Rain started on Bleach. I think that's his like favorite anime of all time. And General Spartan says watching Total Recall, the good one from the '90s, as I listen in. Right on, man. Enjoy the scene with the three boobed lady there in Total Recall. You got exploding heads and that. I mean, this Total Recall. That movie was crazy back in the day. I can't believe my parents let me watch it so much because that was like, was that late '80s or early '90s? I think it was like late '80s, right? I watched that movie so much back then. Movies were so good back in those days. Just random crazy stuff all the time. So much originality back then. I feel like everything is copying a lot of the stuff. I think maybe the 80s was like a time of like a renaissance of creativity. I don't know. You still think about a lot of the popular brands we have today, a lot of the stuff we play or watch or do, um, all a lot of it stems from the 80s, right? You got all these like classic cartoons and shows and characters that were created back then. We had kind of a I feel like superheroes took a step up at that time too, because that's when like those Batman movies started and stuff like that, you know. Man, just lots of cool stuff back then. We get remakes and stuff of a lot of that, but still doesn't live up to a lot of the originals for sure. Man, is it just nostalgia talking? Also, side note, many of you know I am an animal cracker fiend, right? So these have been on my radar for a little while because we've known they've been coming. I actually made a tweet when we found out about these existing and that they were going to hit the stores at some point. And as an animal cracker aficionado, as an animal cracker connoisseur, this is something that combines two of my favorite things. And I have not tried it yet. This is the first time live on camera that Mav is going to eat this. Right? So maybe I'll hate it. Maybe you guys think it's like I don't like it. I don't know. But my wife surprised me. Actually my daughters. Technically my daughter surprised me with these because that's what she said. I don't know, but check this out, everybody. Your mind's about to fucking be blown. I hold before you possibly one of the best creations ever to hit store shelves. I'm talking about Reese's dipped animal crackers. Could this be the best hybrid snack ever to hit planet Earth? It very well could be. I mean, I love Reese's. I love Reese Cups. I love animal crackers. So what's not to like with this, right? So shout out to Reese's for putting these out, and I can't wait to try these fuckers. I have, like I said, I have not tried them before, so I can't wait either. You know, I had dinner tonight. It's time for a little snack. Reese's dipped animal crackers. Before we get into all the gaming conversations, we'll start with this because I'm going to be snacking on these probably as we're talking. So here we go. Reese's dipped animal crackers. Now, I'm notorious for fucking up the bags when I open them, so I'm gonna try and be careful here. Oh, what a smooth opening. Look at that. The bag didn't rip. I didn't rip it down the side. Now it's gonna be easier to keep these fresh if I don't eat the whole thing. All right, what does this look like? Right? We got chocolate on one side, peanut butter on the other, chocolate, peanut butter, and animal cracker in the middle. I will say, it's impossible to fucking tell what kind of animal this is. This looks more like a McDonald's chicken nugget, right? Like if you were to tell me that this was shaped to mimic a McDonald's chicken nugget, I would say I believe you. I don't know if this is supposed to be a fucking bear or what. So like animal crackers, I don't know. Doesn't look like an animal. It looks like a chicken nugget. But here we go. Here goes nothing. It's a buffalo. How can you tell that this is a buffalo? I don't even know which way is up and down on this sucker. Is it a buffalo, Bo TV? You think so? It might be. You might be right. Okay. Here goes nothing. Okay. This is exactly what you think it is. And it's exactly as good as you would think it should be. This thing's the bomb. It did not taste like a buffalo. It tasted like a peanut butter / chocolate animal cracker. Tasted like a Reese's cup animal cracker. Again, we got another. Oh, I can tell what this is. This is a lion. That's a sleeping lion, right? That's what that looks like to me. I mean, it's a little. I mean, you got to use your imagination, right? But I believe that's what that is. As Barstool Sports Dave Portnoy, or Portney, whatever his name is. One bite, you know the rules. All right. Well, damn, that's good. Holy shit. Wow. Maybe it's a mistake to stream because I can't talk and eat those at the same time, and I just want to fucking eat those. Wow. 1 to 10? Oh, man. That's definitely a 10. I will say this. The Reese's, the peanut butter on these tastes more like Reese's Pieces. Reese's Pieces, as I call them, Reese's Pieces, than Reese's peanut butter cups. Right? So rookie score. All right, so I'll say a 9.2. I mean, how can you go wrong? You're marrying two of my favorite things of all time into one product, right? Delicious. Highly recommend it. This video is not sponsored by Reese's dipped animal crackers, but maybe one day it will be. This thing needs to not be a limited time thing, okay? I don't want to see this gone and replaced by some other like bullshit later. Reese's, keep these on the shelves because I'll be sorely disappointed if not. Yeah, 9.2. If you want me to be like not give a rookie score, 9.2. Is this a segment where we all guess the animals? That could be fun, but I wouldn't even know if I was be able to tell you correct or not. So yeah, before we get into some games later, I kind of wanted to talk about some of these things coming up, guys. And I appreciate you guys in the chat hanging out. Shout out to Bo TV. Shout out to my wife Caitlin for again securing the literal bag here. RSJ fan, how's it going? Still Rain. Jasper's hanging out. General Spartan 27 Decado. Tom from Toonami. You all rock. Some silent people here as well. So shout out to anybody who is watching. First thing I want to talk about is this Starfield Deep Dive announcement, right? I feel like we could be right now on the eve of that announcement, right? Like the Starfield Deep Dive announcement could be tomorrow, could be Tuesday, it could be Wednesday. I don't think it's any later than Wednesday, right? So I'm pretty confident in saying, because with all the smoke that's out there, that this deep dive announcement is either tomorrow, Tuesday, or Wednesday. And what I hope is it's tomorrow, right? That smoke late in the week, last week, usual news can happen on Mondays, right? If people have good news about things, it's just typical for gaming companies to do that. And the deep dive, I want to have a little fun speculation here, right? If this deep dive is actually announced tomorrow, when will we actually get the deep dive, and what will the deep dive be? Because they said that they held back Starfield from the original developer direct to give it the attention that it deserves, and they said it was in the works, right? With the smoke about it being imminent now, helps, I think, what a lot of us thought, that this game could be coming sooner than later, maybe late April, potentially early March. I'm still a Marcher. I'm leaning towards late March right now because I've always thought that they won't wait too long between the deep dive and the game announcement, right? I just don't know why they would wait 3 months after a deep dive, because they're not going to do more than one big Starfield deep dive. If this thing actually gets announced and happens this month, we're not going to get a June release date for Starfield, I don't think. Because otherwise, why wouldn't you just do the deep dive in May, right? Or April, to generate that hype and keep that hype up for Starfield? And people say, well, you need to do the 3 or 4 months of marketing and all that kind of stuff. And I've never agreed with that. Starfield's already #1 wish listed on Steam, right? It's already got a lot of hype behind there. Bethesda is a different beast, right? And I feel like you could have 3 weeks, 2 weeks of some YouTube commercials, TV commercials, get the pre-orders up, have whatever, heavy marketing for Starfield everywhere for a short period, and then hit the ground running with it. And the game's going to be one of the most important played games this year, regardless. Plus, you also got 30 million people that are going to get access to it in Game Pass day one anyway, right? So with all that being said, that leads me to think that, this is going to be a pretty substantial deep dive into Starfield, right? I think, an example that people can look at is a deep dive, look at gameplay or whatever, would be Suicide Squad that we just had. I think it's more significant than that, because we've already had the reveal of Starfield gameplay before. We've already had a pretty decent little video where they walked around and they kind of showed some of the core gameplay from Starfield, right? I feel like this deep dive is going to go more in depth. It'll be longer, show different things. It'll talk about the factions. It may talk about, the story, talk about dialogue. It'll talk about some of the planets potentially. It'll talk about your ship. It'll talk about shipbuilding. They're going to go into more of this and really blow people's minds of holy shit, I've read some of this stuff in some of these articles, and Todd's talked about it in some of these interviews and stuff, but actually seeing this on the screen, blowing it out like this all together in one thing, oh my God, this game's way bigger and better than I ever thought. And I feel like they're only going to do that one time before the game releases, right? Because they want to build that ultimate hype, that ultimate anticipation, right? So, how long do we think the Starfield section of this, or if it's all that it is going to be? Is 45 minutes too much to focus on one game? Could it be longer than that? Could it be shorter than that? There's been speculation out there that this could also be part of a thing where they also have a couple other things there. Like, could be try and take advantage of the attention that the Starfield Deep Dive is going to get to just shine a light on some other things. I feel like they've already shown Redfall enough. I feel like they've already shown, Forza Motorsport, and they got the Forza Monthly thing that they're doing now, right? So, first party stuff, I don't know what else they really would focus on, and except for maybe they would use the what's coming soon kind of thing, or maybe they talk about how this is going to kickstart this new era for Xbox, and they give like a sizzle reel trailer for everything we know about coming already for the rest of this year, and then maybe give like a hint or a tease about, hey, and tune into E3 this year, not E3, but whatever they call whatever they're going to be at later this year, and say we're going to have even more new game announcements then. So stay tuned, because this is kicking off the new Xbox this year with the biggest release in a long time in Xbox's history, the biggest release that Bethesda's had in a long time, and it's just going to keep flowing all the way through to the end of this year, and don't expect an end in sight for 2024, 2025, 2026, and so on. So if we got 30 minutes of Starfield, that'd be pretty damn crazy, right? I mean, that's a good amount. You think people would stick around for a whole 30-minute show of that game? I think so. I think this is going to be the biggest kind of deep dive we've had from an Xbox game in a while. They've done things like that with Redfall and stuff before a little bit, but this is going to be bigger. Question is how big, right? So let's say what day do we think it could be, right? So a lot of people are thinking it's going to be mid-March, like March 13th to March 15th. I was listening to Xbox 2. Shout out to Rand and Jez and those guys. They were putting out there the idea that if the deep dive is announced in the next couple days, like maybe Wednesday, right, that it could be announced for 2 weeks from then. So we'd be looking at, calendar-wise, if they announce it on Wednesday, you would look at the deep dive on the 15th, right? So as a Marcher, right now, I'm looking at what does that mean for a game release if it was to still be able to hit March. At that point, you'd be talking about probably March 29th through the 31st, right? The 31st is a Friday. The 30th is a Thursday. You could hit any of those and be okay. But I feel like there was another game releasing on March the 29th or 30th. That's a pretty significant game. So maybe that wouldn't happen. So you look at before then, right? You look at before then, you have the 29th, 28th, 27th. What about the week prior? The week before that, you have the 22nd, 23rd, 24th, 25th, right? So a lot of us speculators have been saying that 3/23/23. You could also do 3/21/23, but I don't think they're going to wait till the 15th. If the game did come out in March, I don't think they're going to wait till the 15th to do the deep dive, right? My hypothetical here is they don't need to announce this deep dive 2 weeks in advance like they did the last developer direct, right? I feel like the last dev direct got announced 2 weeks in advance because Xbox, we were us gamers on Xbox. Remember, it had been so silent for so long, right? It was like, where's the Xbox stuff? What's going on? Like, why is it so silent? They had the slow 2022, and at that time they announced finally the developer direct like for 2 weeks in advance, which was going to showcase multiple games as well. So I feel like that got a 2 week ahead notice just to get ahead of things and then let people know, hey, relax, everybody. The news is coming, right? So they wanted to announce it as soon as possible. With this now, they already got the shadow drop of Hi-Fi Rush. Xbox already got traction. We just had games like Atomic Heart hit Game Pass. We got Wolong happening soon too. Things are already in a positive momentum and flow right now. If you're an Xbox gamer, they don't need to come out 2 weeks ahead of a dev direct or a deep dive announcement for this. Like State of Play was announced what, like 2 days before or something like that, or 3 days before. Nintendo Directs usually only get announced like a day before, 2 days before. I feel like Xbox may only do a week or less before the actual deep dive. So it's potential that this deep dive for Starfield could even happen this week, coming week. If not, then I think it would be the following week. I don't think they need to do a whole 2 week anticipation lead up to the Starfield deep dive. And in fact, I almost think that could be potentially a mistake. Do, hey, in 2 weeks, come and check out the Starfield deep dive. I mean, I don't know. That doesn't sound normal to me. It sounds like, hey, in 2 days, in 3 days, check out the Starfield deep dive, right? So, hypothetical, what if they do that quick turnaround, right? What if they do that quick turnaround? We have the announcement maybe tomorrow, and then you have maybe like Wednesday is the actual deep dive. That's the 1st of March. Or maybe, Friday or Thursday, the 2nd. You could literally do any day of that week still and be good, right? You could have March 2nd, March 3rd, March 1st, early March deep dive. You could even have, okay, let's say if they want a week notice, they could do the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, or whatever. Any of those dates, right? If you go anywhere between the 27th to the 10th, that still gives you 3 whole weeks of lead up to be able to get this game out in March. So people say we're still crazy to believe that this game could hit in March. I say, nah, we're not crazy. Like we think it's possible. You know, like we still think it's a possibility, right? I mean, if it didn't happen in March, it'd be more in April than it would be on June, right? Like I would be like first week of April, second week of April before I would go jumped all the way to June, right? Especially if you look at June, people talk about being stacked and not getting in the way of things. June is crazy. June is absolutely nuts. I mean, there's like so much stuff launching in June. So I don't know. I feel like earlier this year makes the most sense. And as Todd had said on that Les Friedman interview before, there's a lot that goes into picking a release date, you know? And they didn't want to move off of the 11/11 because of everything that had put into it. But it became apparent at the time that they needed a little bit more time, right? So they wanted to wait. Now that they have this deep dive coming, I feel like they're ready. If they didn't have, if this deep dive wasn't coming, I don't think they would be like they would just hold off on it, right? Like I don't believe they would do the deep dive until they were close to ready to launch. Like why do it? Why do it unless you're close to ready to launch? You know. Otherwise, you could have the deep dive as part of the E3 show. If it's July, August, September, October, you could have the deep dive like April, May, if it was coming out in June. Like, I feel like March and April is the two most likely scenarios if the announcement of the deep dive actually happens this week, right? I don't want to know what you guys think. Like, how many marchers do we have here? Like, if you are a channel member, put up the marchers emoji if you're a marcher, right? If you think it's a possibility this game's coming out in March. Are you at April, June, May? I'm gonna put up a poll here. Starfield release date, and we're gonna go with March, April, and then May, and then I'll put June or after. That's the last option. Let me know what you think. I'm curious to see what your guys thinking. Bo TV says release it April 1st, then release Redfall May 2nd. Then it's like a 1-2 punch. Yeah, why not? That would be amazing. That would be absolutely amazing. Except Froggy, how's it going? Froggy says whenever I hear Todd talk, I always hear the song "Sweet Little Lies" playing in your head. Sweet Little Lies. Um, Jasper says you could visit the Elder Scrolls planet and make sense. Elder Scrolls planet is not Earth, so it could be out there in the Starfield universe, and you could watch the events of Skyrim from space. That would be absolutely amazing to see Tamriel from space. Like I know Tamriel's a continent, right? That all of those Skyrim, Morrowind, and all those places are on, right? So yeah, that'd be amazing to see Tamriel. Mikado says it's very possible now that mini games are moving out of March. It's true as well. Remember, Redfall was originally hinted at that it was coming in March, and they have moved it to May. So why do you move it? Why do you move Redfall then? That's not a very long move. I mean, that's not very far out. Redfall looks ready, right? Like maybe it was because they pegged Starfield to be the first, which we always said on this channel anyway. Between all the panelists that we have, everybody on the pods and stuff, our consensus was that the best thing that could happen with Xbox, with the Bethesda and Starfield, is if that's the first big game to hit, right? For this year. Because if it is the first big game to hit this year, it's just going to set the momentum for the rest of the year, right? That conversation of Starfield is going to be happening all year. And then you get more subscribers into Game Pass. You get more people excited to buy the consoles, which hopefully they have in stock. Hopefully they were sitting on shit tons of them in China and they're all on the way to the retailers and stuff right now, right? Because they just changed the boxes, the Starfield boxes, which there's pictures of those out there, right? So you have all of those happening. You have all of those getting ready. And hopefully there's a large amount of stock all of a sudden available, right? Which right now there's not. So hopefully that happens. You kick it off, you launch Starfield. Then yes, now you are not only going to have that big system seller, ecosystem seller, subscription getter, all that kind of stuff within Starfield, but then you have, well, hey, guess what, people that have joined us because of Starfield, you also have another game to keep you in the ecosystem, Redfall. Guess what? We also have another game to keep you in the ecosystem, Minecraft Legends. We also have another game to keep you in the ecosystem, Forza Motorsport. And then you have your E3 showing, and then outline all this news and release dates and calendars and stuff coming for the next second half of the year, maybe going into 2024 and then beyond, right? Generate that excitement. Get people interested and committed to what Game Pass has to offer, what Xbox has to offer, excited about it, and then keep them there with the promise of what's to keep coming, right? So I think Starfield makes the most sense. And when we had Rand on a show, he actually had agreed like that would be the ideal situation. That if Starfield would it hit first out of those titles, right? So if I'm Microsoft and you can make that happen, if you're Bethesda and you can make that happen, especially even for your own games, like Redfall, in my opinion, will be more successful if Starfield hits first because you have more people that will have joined into the Xbox ecosystem. Like Redfall may become really popular, may be really exciting, but it's not going to be the game that drives people in masses to Xbox, right? But you hit Starfield first, you have a lot of people get into the Xbox ecosystem, then you have Redfall. It's going to be even more popular than it was, right? And then it just keeps expanding upon itself and expanding upon itself. So that was one of the reasons why we thought March would have made sense, or maybe early April, because hitting ahead of those other games sets up Xbox for the best year possible this year, probably. Unless the game's broken, buggy mess, right? If it's just absolutely broken, it has too many issues, it's like unoptimized, horrible, experience, yeah, then keep pushing it back, right? Nobody's asking them to rush the game, but they were so set in stone almost of that 11/11 release date. They thought they were going to be ready for. It's not crazy to think that the game may only needed 4 or 5 more months, right? It's already been since that release date. It's already been like 3.5 months, over 3.5 months since then. They've had a lot of extra time, right? Then if you talk about having a March or April, you talk about that's 4 months, maybe potentially up to 5 months of extra time, right? People say that, well, why only delay a game for 4 or 5 months? Shit, games get delayed for weeks at times. Games get delayed for 1 month. Games get delayed for 2 months. Games get delayed for 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, a year. Just depends on what the game needs. And who knows? The speculation is like, I see that question, Bo TV, was 5 months enough? Was 4 months enough? Whatever. Who knows? I mean, they were set in stone on 11/11 for like, they were really sure up until a certain point. And then they buckled down and decided, hey, we're going to spend more time on this sucker. Right. So at that point, who knows if it was enough or not? The only people that know that is Bethesda. But I don't feel like this deep dive would be happening if it wasn't enough. Because like I said, why have the deep dive unless you're somewhat close to launch? It doesn't make sense. Right. So for me, I feel like, yeah, it's probably enough. And if people expect that, but this Starfield game is not going to have any bugs in it, whatever. It was always going to have bugs in it. So, like, this is Bethesda, big, ambitious, first person / third person, story based, open world, open planet, open solar system, open whatever in this case, open universe game, right? Open galaxy. I forget exactly how. I mean, you got 1,000 planets you can hit here, right? So within Starfield, yeah, it's going to have bugs, right? It's just Bethesda's known for that. There's a reason they're called Bethesda. Now, could it be more polished than a lot of the other ones in the past? Who knows exactly? But this game was never going to come out and have like 0 bugs. No, and hardly any games do. Like, you play Hogwarts Legacy right now, one of the most highly popular games this year. People are just ranting and raving about how amazing it is. It's got issues too, right? Hogwarts Legacy's got bugs. People walk through closed doors. You see people just walking into walls just constantly in that game. Our buddy 3-Bit just had a progression bug where his game's fucked and he's going to lose all of his progress, right? So there's a lot of games that have a lot of different issues, and they should not be like necessarily forgiven for that. I mean, like, you can say like, hey, you know what? Like, games should have 0 bugs, whatever. The more ambitious games get, usually the more bugs they have, and they get ironed out over long periods of time and stuff. Starfield's going to have some bugs. I hope it's more polished than most Bethesda games come at launch, right? I'm talking about those Oblivions and Skyrims and stuff like that. But who knows? We'll have to wait and see. I guarantee you there'll be some weird, crazy shit happening here and there that's going to be funny. But people invest in those games. They invest their time in those games because they have amazing experiences and just get so sucked in to the worlds and stuff like that. El Greco's sup says, how about an introductory mission or two? You have to get your ship, get the overarching story mission to explore, and then you should be free. Yeah, Todd talked about there's going to be multiple of those times where you have that like sequence. You know, like they made famous from Fallout and from their Elder Scrolls games. You know, the Elder Scrolls, like, you leave the prison or whatever for the first time and like step out of the cave, and you're like, whoa, look at this world. Or like in Fallout, you know, you come out of the vault for the first time and it's like bright light, and then all of a sudden you adjust and it's like, whoa, look at this post-apocalyptic fantasy land that we get to explore. You know, I feel like Starfield, like, that's Todd said, you're gonna have multiple of those, and maybe it's like entering the atmosphere, or exiting the atmosphere, entering space could be one of those moments, and then also walking out onto a planet could be one of those moments, right? Where we're like, whoa, okay, wow, you know, this is amazing. I hope we see some of that, right? I don't want them to spoil everything on the deep dive, because these games can be really special for those memories that they give us, right? With things like that. But I think they can do a good job at building up hype for the game. and still keep a lot of that stuff close to their chest, right? Bo says Bethesda used to have hard deadlines, but with Xbox, they have more freedom now to make a game they want. Yeah, so with Starfield, if Xbox had not bought them, Microsoft didn't buy Bethesda, then Starfield may have actually come out in November. We don't know that for sure, but we do know originally when Tim Schafer from Double Fine talked about Psychonauts 2, Microsoft allowed them more time to put more stuff in the game, right? That allowed them to finish stuff that made the game way bigger and better than it would have been otherwise, right? So, people that say, hey, it's a detriment to these studios sometimes be owned by a company like Microsoft. Well, sometimes there's a lot of benefit, and the benefit can be to the gamers because Microsoft wants these games to be quality. Otherwise, it just puts a bad name on the brand, right? These are like their commercials for the brand. Yeah, hey, come here to play this, right? Jasper says multiple of those moments every time you exit a ship on a new planet. All right, let's check on the poll here. What do we got here? We got 30 votes. Wow, 40%. I'm disappointed, Chad. 40% say June or after. Oof. That's okay. It's all right. I mean, if it hits June, that's fine. After, I'm not down for that. So we'll see. March, 33% of you are Marchers out there. So there's at least 10 Marchers in this chat right now. Congratulations to the 10 of you for potentially being right next month. And I hope we are. April is 16%. If I lump March and April together, which is my guess right now, like that would be my assumption is sometime in March or April. We're at 49% of the chat right now is at March or April. And then there's another 10% that says May. May could work also. The only thing about May is you have Redfall hitting. So you could, if it hit May, it would have to be like early May, in my opinion. But either any time between late March and early May would be the best bet, in my opinion. Right? It could happen in June. There's a lot of people that think June. There's a lot of people that think June. But yeah, you're right. Yeah, Hellspawn says Diablo 4 is in June. You also have like Street Fighter 6 is in June. There's a bunch of other games in June. June right now is like the most loaded month that's known right now, right? So June could still work, right? June could still work. I wouldn't say you have to be afraid of those games to not release in June. But you got to remember, ABK is a partner of Microsoft going forward. Like, Microsoft is looking to acquire Activision Blizzard, right? So would you release potentially like two of your biggest brands in the same month? Because Diablo is potentially just as big as Starfield, right? Diablo is huge. Diablo's massive. And Microsoft, if this ABK deal goes through in the next few months, will actually own Diablo. So you would think about they would try not to necessarily mess with Diablo too much, right? So June, May is also, Jasper says Zelda. I think the two best months are March or April. Right? And like Todd said, a lot goes into the decision making of release dates. This year's already going to be fully loaded anyway. So why not just go ahead and hit March or April and go on with it, right? So Tom says, I don't know about Diablo for the console, but not an issue. But PC, it's definitely a consideration not to launch June. Starfield is going to be a massive, huge, popular game on PC, right? Like I said, it's already the most wishlisted game on Steam. So do you want to have your company you're acquiring have their biggest release of the year, besides Call of Duty, probably later this year, and Diablo hit the same month that you're releasing your biggest game this year also with Starfield, right? I don't know. I don't know if that would make a lot of sense for June. Could Diablo also get pushed out of June? That's possible. We don't know right now, but we know that they're doing a beta testing soon. So I think that everything lines up for them right now. Bo says delayed Diablo till October. And the thing is, that's not Microsoft's decision if it's delayed. It's Activision Blizzard's, right? So Susa says that's why it's November, Mav. Does November make sense? Yeah, why not? November could make sense. But it would suck, and Microsoft would also have potentially 2 of the big games that they said at last year's E3 were coming out in the next 12 months, not hit that. And they got to at some time start delivering on their promises, right? So if you show up and it's like, hey, we got all these games coming from first party in the next 12 months, why do that show that way if they weren't confident about it, right? Why do the show that way if you're letting everybody potentially down again to have to wait even longer? And if the holiday for this year is primarily made up of games that were supposed to come out last year, that's not a good look again. And I would not be happy about it. I feel like they should have other stuff this holiday that should have already been lined up instead of the games that were previously delayed. I'm looking for this holiday. I'm looking for other big games. I'm looking for potentially a Hellblade 2 to come out this holiday. I'm looking for maybe a Contraband or something, right? Or some other games that you've been working on, invested in to happen this holiday season, right? Not the games that were supposed to come out last year because they got to stop this trend at some point, right? Um, I just don't know, man. Like, yeah, you'd have still a lot of anticipation for Starfield, but we'll have that conversation if it comes to it. Right now, the last update we got from Starfield and from Bethesda said first half of 2023. So all of my speculation is guessing which one of those months is in the first half that the game's going to launch, right? Also, again, if we get this deep dive soon, like the imminent announcement from all these insiders says it's going to happen, we get this deep dive announcement soon, and this deep dive happens this month. Ain't no way that game's coming out in November. You wouldn't do a deep dive on Starfield and have the game come out 9 months later. Nobody does that, right? 8 months later, whatever. Nobody does that. You have a deep dive of these games closer to launch. The furthest away you would do something like that is like 2-3 months potentially, right? Like maybe 4 at the most for like some of the bigger games. Like Suicide Squad just got one. What's its release date's in May, right? Suicide Squad had their big gameplay reveal and stuff. 15 minutes dedicated from the state of play. That was in May, I believe, right? It's like May 2nd. Is that right? May 2nd. You can also look at Baldur's Gate 3 just finally got shown as a console reveal trailer and all that stuff. That's August, but they didn't really do a big deep dive on that. And that game's already been a preview for a long time. So I feel like the most you'd ever usually do a big deep dive like that or something, and especially one where they're separating it out from the last show to stand on its own. Like they could, if this game was in November or second half of the year, what Starfield was, they would have just had like another Starfield trailer at that last Dev Direct. They wouldn't have separated a big deep dive for this. They would have waited later to do the deep dive, second half of the year sometime, closer to launch. So I feel like the deep dive is going to happen 1 to 2 months before release. That seems pretty standard and typical for the industry too. Like across the board, like, I don't know. You don't do a big deep dive like 5-6 months in advance unless you run into another problem and the game gets delayed further. But I don't feel like they'd be doing this deep dive if that was the case. And that's why when they originally made that Dev Direct announcement and they said they're separating Starfield out to give it the attention it deserves, the speculation at that time was, from our part, was okay. Well, it makes sense because if there's enough there that they want to give it its own attention, right? They want to give it its own attention, then that means they want to spend more time on it and they want to give people a bigger look at the game. Well, that would only be happening if the game was probably sooner than later. And they also didn't want to overshadow everything else that was at that Dev Direct. Because if Starfield was there and all that stuff was happening, it would have overshadowed everything else that happened at that Dev Direct, right? So Starfield being separated allowed those games to shine, allowed games like Hi-Fi Rush to have the attention that they deserved, allowed Redfall the attention it deserved, allowed Forza Motorsport the attention it deserved. And now you have this deep dive for Starfield, then you hit them with the launch of Starfield, then we still have all those games that we saw at the Dev Direct to look forward to. That's how I feel like It would be. Yeah, Jason says, yeah, they won't have a deep dive and let us down with another delay at the end. That would be so bad. I don't know, man. Like, I think we're all pretty confident we're gonna get the release date at this deep dive for Starfield. Like, I feel, I mean, really, right? I mean, there's only gonna be, they would be pointless to have this unless they were ready for the release date. Did they say later this year? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. But again, like I said, deep dive usually leads to a closer release date. Bo TV says 1 month with massive online advertising would be enough. I completely agree. Even less than that, 3 weeks. You can save in 2.5, 3 weeks. I think would be plenty. This game's already immensely being looked forward to. People already know about this game. It's already been shown numerous times with their own like things on their YouTube channel where they talk about different stuff. They've already had the gameplay first look. They've already had multiple trailers. They've had tons of interviews with Todd. They've had articles written about the game. Like, there's already this marketing train for Starfield has been going on for years. To be honest with you guys, like, it's not like there's a lack of anticipation for it, right? So you come out there and you have a solid month or few weeks or whatever in everybody's face with that release date prominent, all that kind of stuff. I feel like it's plenty. And we got to be honest, like, Microsoft's usually not the best with marketing. Bethesda does a way better job, right? Bethesda does a way better job, but that's why we've gotten all that stuff I've been talking about, right? Tom says they have to give the date. I don't think Todd would do it unless they had a date, whatever that date is. Yeah, they got to give us the date. It's going to be, if there's not going to have a deep dive, if they have, here's why they got to have the date, right? Put yourself in the position. We're all sitting there. We're like, oh man, this deep dive is fucking incredible. Oh my God. Yeah, I can't wait. This is going to be so sick. Yeah, Starfield's amazing. Yeah, it's going to be great. And then at the end of the trailer, we just see 2023. That will destroy everything that they just showed us, because all that will be talked about online is like Starfield potentially pushed back to second half of 2023. What is Starfield's release date? People will be like, is it going to get delayed again? Like, all that kind of stuff. They cannot do that. Like, if they already had made that decision, the worst case scenario decision of delaying it past the first half, they better at least give that date, because then they'll at least be able to stand behind that instead of have more uncertainty in the air, right? You put more uncertainty in the air, that would be bad. They did kind of do that with Forza Motorsport, but I honestly feel like that's because they have no clue when that game's coming out right now. Like, I feel like they still wanted to hold out hope that it would hit first half of 2023, so that way they could live up to their promise, but they're uncertain with where the team's going to be at by that time, and so they'll do that. But they needed to have Forza as part of this show, right? If you're not confident and ready with Starfield, you don't need to do this deep dive right now. You can just wait till later, because it's its own standalone thing, right? You can't have the whole look ahead at all these Xbox first party games that have already been announced that are slated for this year and not have Forza there, right? Like, and it's also getting its monthly updates on its own things, right? So Forza was going to be in that show regardless. My point is that one's the one that looks like it is being pushed back into the second half, and they don't maybe know what date yet. Probably August, September, something like that. But Starfield needed its own show, and they won't have that show unless they're confident on the release date, whatever the release date is. Even if it ends up being a shitty one second half of the year, I think we're going to get the release date, because if we don't, it ruins everything that we just saw, because there'll be so much uncertainty out there, right? So I think we get the release date, and I'm still counting on it in the next few months, next couple months when we get it. I saw a comment from Nate Polis. It said some CMA findings came out today, Mav. They seem to only think the deal will pass if they make a deal with PlayStation and nullify more cloud concerns. They seemingly ignore the deal with Nintendo. Hold on real quick, guys. Be right back. Oh, there we go. Sorry about that, everybody. Yeah, let me get back to what we were talking about. The CMA, regarding the cloud and all that stuff. I think that the cloud aspect was largely addressed with the NVIDIA deal, right? So Nate Polis, again, just to reread this comment, because I did want to get into this some, right? Because specifically the CMA, because the CMA is like the major hurdle here for this deal, right? Is it over with if they say no and they block it? I see some people saying that, and that's what I want to have a discussion about, because I don't know if that's the case or not. But besides that, Nate says some CMA findings came out today again that they seem to only think the deal will pass if they make a deal with PlayStation and nullify more cloud concerns. They seemingly ignore the deal with Nintendo. Yeah, they do seemingly ignore the deal with Nintendo, but I think that's like a weird thing that they're doing. But Microsoft seems to just ran with it because they excluded Nintendo as well from their like numbers regarding like market share and all that kind of stuff with the EC recently. So if that's the case, right, then the NVIDIA thing, I think, directly addresses the cloud concerns, because NVIDIA is one of the major cloud competitors, right? Like right now, PlayStation isn't even really a big cloud competitor. If you think about it, like there's not like a lot of PlayStation isn't really pushing the cloud too much, right? So for me, like you look out there and what's the biggest cloud competitors? What you can say like, okay, Nvidia, which is probably maybe the biggest right now cloud competitor when it comes to games, because you can play those games on anywhere, on anything that supports that service, GeForce Now. Or you talk about um, services like Amazon Luna, right? So, will Amazon do a deal with Microsoft? I don't think they would want to, even, right? Because I think Amazon hasn't challenged this deal because they want to be able to make their own acquisitions. They want to be able to make their own deals, right? I feel like ultimately what Microsoft alluded to years ago when people said like, Sony isn't really like their competition anymore, it was more like Amazon and Google. Like Google backed out of that, right? Google's like, hey, we dipped our toe in and we pulled the usual Google and we just stuck our toe back out, right? And for whatever reason, they just didn't seem to want to go all in on the cloud gaming like they were trying to. Amazon's still in it, right? Amazon's making other big plays. Like Amazon's even starting to go multi-plat with their games. Like we know that they're publishing the new Tomb Raider, right? So they've transitioned to being only like a Luna focused company and developing games for their platform now, to actually making deals with third-party publishers to bring out games on multiple platforms and IPs and stuff like that. There's actually two different games. I can't remember the other one. The other one was like some MMO thing or something. But this other one now we got with Tomb Raider is actually being like Amazon published. So that's crazy. They made a deal with Embracer Group, right? So I feel like ultimately in the long run, you're gonna have like Amazon, Microsoft. You got services like Nvidia out there. PlayStation will get better with the cloud eventually. You'll be able to play more of their games in the cloud and all that kind of stuff. They're starting to do that now, right? Um, but PlayStation doesn't like playing ball with Microsoft, really. So I to see like potential like Xbox games available on a PlayStation, I don't think PlayStation wants that. So you look at where the cloud companies, the cloud services out there that would want that, and it's companies like Nvidia, right? And Microsoft could have said no, we're not doing that because we only want people to buy the games on our cloud service and play the games on our cloud service. But they're proving with Nvidia that they're not going to try and monopolize the cloud streaming industry, right? By allowing their games, including Call of Duty, which is the whole big question on that service. Now they went above and beyond also, even with the platform that they all say doesn't matter, and it really does matter, Nintendo, because you can't tell what the future of gaming is. So, like right now, Nintendo's a handheld gaming device that's only doing so much, but Nvidia also is the makes the chips for Nintendo, don't they? I think that Jasper is in the chat. Correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't like Nintendo use Nvidia stuff, right? To for their graphics and everything. So if that's the case, Nvidia is also a partner of Nintendo, right? So who knows? Maybe hypothetically, the next Nintendo device might have that similar infrastructure in there to be able to play games in the cloud, right? Also, you have Nintendo. You could put cloud games on the Switch now or whatever the next Switch is, and to say that the next Switch won't be in the same like realm of capabilities of a Xbox or PlayStation with some of that kind of stuff is too early to say, because if the cloud infrastructure gets better or if they're able to make better ports of games to play on a Nintendo device, there will be more of those games on that device, right? You already have games like Witcher even going over there right now. So I feel like the Nvidia thing was like a big play. Like that was the biggest one, in my opinion, to get that done because the cloud issue there is checkmarked. I think the cloud issue there with the CMA is like done, right? Look, we're willing to do these deals. You're talking about putting all of our, not just Call of Duty, you're talking about putting all of Xbox's games available there, right? So PlayStation is going to try and play hardball because they know that that's what the CMA wants, right? Is for a deal to be agreed to with them. So for the CMA to rely on that deal to be signed, that's a great question. I don't know if that holds a lot of water if Microsoft can prove that the deal is being offered to them is fair and that PlayStation's just playing like we're just going to be our own thing and we don't want to do business with Microsoft and screw Microsoft and all these things, and like just we're just going to like ignore it and say that Call of Duty should be on PlayStation and we should like have our own marketing right, that we should be able to do what we want, all that stuff. I feel like if Microsoft in this part where they're proposing these remedies, they will show the Nvidia signed contract, they will show the Nintendo signed contract, they will show the offer made to PlayStation that is maybe even above and beyond those other deals, and show that PlayStation's just not willing to talk because they want to protect their own dominant market position, right? And you can't say that Xbox isn't playing ball with PlayStation already because they are already putting games like Minecraft and stuff in their service. right? I think PS Plus this month, would it have Minecraft Dungeons in there for PS Plus? So Microsoft's got all these check marks that they can put and forward to the CMA. The question is the CMA just going to be ignore it and just like do what they want anyway? I don't know. Um, but the question I've been wanting to know, because I've seen two things from this, right? I've seen two sides to this. What happens if the EC agrees to remedies, right? And the CMA decides that they want to still block this deal and not allow any of the remedies that are proposed, right? What happens in that case? Because I've seen some people say, well, that Microsoft can sue the CMA. And I've seen some people say, well, Microsoft cannot sue the CMA because nobody can sue the CMA because they're above the law. So then there's another group called CAT. That kind of holds like if you disagree with the CMA and there's procedures that they can like look into that and potentially challenge CMA or whatever. But I don't know. There's too much out there as far as like what authority the CMA has. Number one. Number two, what is the recourse if the CMA blocks the deal? Right? If in my opinion, right, just as a humble observant of this whole thing, if one market authority in the world, being in a country like the UK, an area like the UK or whatever, decides that they want to block this deal, all these other regulators in the world agree to concessions or either lose in court, like will probably happen with the FTC if they don't agree to some concessions. One regulatory body in the entire world potentially gets a $70 billion deal shut down just because they're being stubborn. Something doesn't add up to me with that, right? I mean, you've already had several other approvals, right? We already know the FTC has a losing case and that Microsoft has a way forward with that, regardless of what the FTC says. We already know that the EC seems like they're willing to negotiate and seems like they're willing to look at remedies and stuff like that. So the UK holds the whole weight of the balance of business from large corporations in the entire world. That seems a little flawed in my opinion, right? So in that case, I feel like there's recourse there. Like there has to be some kind of recourse there, right? I mean, it just like I'm not a expert on this stuff by any means, but to have one potential regulatory body in the world completely shut down this acquisition when the rest of the world says it's okay, I feel like there would be some kind of recourse there. Like there's got to be. You know, otherwise that's too much power for one group that's not even attached necessarily to the government. Right? They're like that just doesn't make sense to me. You know what I mean? Like I don't know, does that make sense to you guys? Like does that seem like too much authority and power? Like their decision cannot be questioned. Their decision is final. Final answer. The rest of the world has to deal with our decision? It just doesn't, I don't know, it just doesn't add up to me. So I feel like this deal is too big for Microsoft. Right? And they're gonna do whatever they need to do to make it happen. Steele says, from what you've seen people say, it's because of how the contract was drawn up for acquiring ABK, but even then it sounds weird. Yeah. So El Greco says, anybody see your comment? So he says, I think the deal falls through in that case. Says, yes, but the thing is that there is a clause in the merger contract between ABK and Microsoft saying that the deal needs to be approved in all of these major institutions, CMA included, right? yeah. So I really do think that even if you have like all these other approvals and the CMA is not, I feel like they still try and fight that. I think that in the contract, also contracts can also be renegotiated as well. So that's a thing. And in fact, if it goes past a certain point, they're going to have to renegotiate the closing timeline on this deal anyway. But I feel like there's a path forward regardless with this deal that they need to look at. And I feel like Microsoft has too much on the line with this for what they want to do with the future to let this just happen. They seem all in on it. They're willing to fight the fight to make it happen. That's why they put up that show last week with all the press and the interviews and everything. Like I've never seen this from Microsoft before, right? This much like of a hey, this is what we're doing. This is what we're trying to do. Here's a contract from Sony. Look at it, right? We're trying to get them to sign it, but they won't. Like, look, I carry it around with me, all that stuff, right? So I don't know. Like FTC, they got a path forward. I think the EC seems like they're willing to potentially talk. CMA said that they're open to structural to behavioral remedies, but they would rather be structural, right? They propose structural remedies, but they're open to behavioral remedies, right? So if that, what are those behavioral remedies? So obviously the NVIDIA thing, the Nintendo thing may hold some weight, somewhat, with them. And then the proposal to Sony. And Microsoft wants to meet and talk with Sony. Now, if Sony doesn't want to play ball and they just never enter the negotiating table, they never enter the room, does Microsoft have a case then against Sony with this? Also, they've been talking about putting forth the documents, all these kind of things. Sony's not willing to play with that. They keep asking for extensions, asking for extension, all this stuff. Does those kind of things make them look bad also to the CMA potentially? Because those things are on the table, and that's the main objector. Everybody else is willing to make deals, right? So I feel like the CMA's stuff should be checkboxed, and they can find a path with them over behavioral remedies, regardless of if Sony ever agrees to play ball or not. Because it's like at some point you have to look at it like, well, like no matter what Xbox does, Microsoft does, they're just not willing to do anything. And the only reason why is because they want us to block the deal, right? At some point they got to see that. And I think Sony's playing with fire with this thing. Nate says, I feel like Sony waiting for a contract for COD in perpetuity. The thing is, consoles may be going to cloud, so that might be the reason why Microsoft won't sign off on that. That's just like, you don't do that, period. Like, that doesn't happen in business. Like, there's not a what does a perpetuity agreement consist of? You would have to have so many checks and balances in a perpetuity agreement. Like, if your PlayStation doesn't exist in 6 years, if your hardware is not capable of running the game, if you stop making hardware, if you're not in the business anymore, if sales into Call of Duty decline to a certain point that it becomes irrelevant to keep bringing to platforms, if it becomes irrelevant for Call of Duty to exist, yeah, like perpetuity is forever. Like, so you would have to have so many clauses in that thing that it would make it irrelevant in the first place. Like, I think Sony's just being stupid with the whole perpetuity thing. Like, there's so, like, a perpetuity contract means absolutely nothing. Because what does it mean? It means that you're gonna put it on that platform, because you can't, as a holder of an IP, you can't guarantee that that's always going to be popular and relevant, that you want to keep making it. Like, you can't guarantee you're going to keep making Call of Duty every year just for PlayStation, right? What if in 10 years from now, this other game comes out and completely destroys Call of Duty? This other game comes out, completely destroys Call of Duty. Call of Duty gets unpopular 10 years from now, whatever. Like, you don't know, none of us know the future. and like Microsoft still has to make Call of Duty still because they signed a contract with PlayStation to put it on their platform. No, there's going to be so many clauses and things in a contract like that that makes a perpetuity agreement completely irrelevant in the first place. Like nobody knows what the industry is going to look like 10 years from now. It's impossible for anybody to 100% predict what the industry is going to look like 10 years from now. We know what it looks like today. We have a decent idea of what it's going to look like in 2 years from now, right? But you look at 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 years from now, think back, right? We just put it into perspective. Think back. All right, let's say over 10 years ago. So let's say 12 years ago, okay? Perpetuity agreement, right? 12 years ago, we were in the year 2011. What was happening then? 360 was still out. PS3 was still out. We were still on the cusp in the next few years of getting next-gen hardware. We didn't even know what that next-gen hardware was going to look like at the time. The cloud was just starting to happen as cloud saves became a thing, right? The cloud just became a thing. The cloud just became a thing with cloud saves on console, being able to move your save, you know, the whole thing of being able to load up your save wherever you are. If you sign into your account, just became a thing, right? Games were still nowhere near as big as they are today. Destiny at that point doesn't even exist yet. Microsoft is still, the 360 is still on top in the console market for hardware in the for the globe. I think still at 2011, maybe 2012 or so. They got passed up by Sony slightly. You got to think back to what we thought of as gaming. The Kinect and PlayStation Move controllers just had launched like a year or two before that or so, or maybe just a year before that. I don't remember what year they launched. And those were like the huge things. They were going to change gaming forever. We're all going to be using motion controls now, right? The Kinect is the future of Xbox. The Kinect, yeah, the Kinect. We're going to have all these studios make Kinect stuff. Yeah, that's what we're at now, right? Then you start 2012, 2013 marketing this 2011, 2012, I guess, late 2012, maybe start marketing these next gen consoles and stuff like that. Nobody 12 years ago foresaw Game Pass. Nobody foresaw what the cloud would become, that we'd be playing games wherever the hell we want, at as high a quality as we're getting them. That the future of gaming looks like potentially you could not even maybe need hardware at some point, right? Because it's going to keep getting so much better and better and better. Like we live in a completely different world gaming wise than we did 12 years ago. The entire industry's changed. Companies are gone that used to be in business. New companies are here, right? You have companies like Embracer Group that wasn't there back then that owns so many different studios and owns so many different companies, so many different IP. Gamefly was hugely popular there back then, right? You had other subscription services and stuff out there for rentals, right? You had all this industry was completely different. Physical was still the primary way of playing games and buying games. People still bought their games physically for the most part. Now, digital is by far the most popular way that people buy games. Nobody can tell us 12 years from now what is going to happen. Do you think 12 years from now, Xbox thought they were going to be able to even buy Activision Blizzard to have an opportunity at that? Nobody knows. It's interesting to think about where this industry is going to go, but it's ridiculous to ask for something in perpetuity without that knowledge. That's why you can't do that. It just doesn't make any sense. 12 years from now could be completely different. 12 years from now, completely different. So 10 years is an extremely long time. And PlayStation is just absolutely ridiculous to think about that. What's up, Eternal Shaddai? How's it going? Absolutely interesting. Ducato says Gamefly came out towards the end of Blockbuster. Yeah. Netflix, who back then, Netflix was still fucking sending DVDs in the mail. Netflix was still sending DVDs in the mail. Right? That's what was happening 12 years ago. Like, it's just, nobody could foresee the streaming future of movies and TV, how that was exactly going to change so much for all these companies. That we have Disney's now a streaming service, that we have the Amazon Prime service, now we got the Netflix service, we got Paramount Plus service, we got companies merging to create other competing platforms and stuff like this, right? Everything changes. Yeah, why so serious? As things change, things come and go, except for GTA 5. Yeah, I didn't even see what you wrote, should I? So I don't know what you're talking about, bro. Yeah, no problem. Maybe I have to go back up and look for it, I guess. But yeah, I don't see anything here. I don't see anything in the I don't see anything in the chat that was even removed. The only thing I see Bo TV earlier retracted a message. I don't see anything from you that got removed or deleted or moderated or anything, bro. All I see is, how are you, Mav? I'm doing good, bro. How are you? Nate Polo says, very true what you said about perpetuity. Jim Ryan sounds off as rocker and arrogant calling for that. And it is. It's just like a ridiculous thing to ask for. It's an impossible thing to ask for. Oh, should I? It's an article link. I have set to where article like links aren't allowed in the chat. So we get like bots and stuff that come in here sometimes, and then they try and link to like crazy websites and shit like that. So the only people that can put links in the chat is the moderators and me. So like if you try to put a link in the chat, it just won't allow it. Period. It's nothing to do with you. El Greco says, why do we blame Jimmy Boy for asking for perpetuity when it's a great deal for them? I get that contracts like these are not signed in business, but he's just throwing stuff at the wall. The thing is, we blame him because he's asking for something that's just not possible. Right? Yeah, it's nothing you did wrong, should I? It's just a setting I have. It's just like automatically, like if somebody posts a link, it just like it just goes into the abyss, right? Like it just doesn't show up. Yeah, it was just because he's asked for something that's like impossible for them to give. Right? Yeah, I removed a lot of mods, Dread, on here. Like I only have so many because like I was trying to add somebody and like I was having trouble. Like I just removed like half of the mods, I think, on the channel. So it's no disrespect to you at all or anything, bro. Yeah, that's why we blame Jim, because it's just a tactic by them to try and make it seem like Microsoft's not willing to do business, right? Ask for something impossible. Ask for something impossible, so that way it seems like your competitor is not willing to talk or negotiate, or they're being unreasonable, or in his words, inadequate. It just comes across for like a lot of people why we blame Jim Ryan, because it comes across as hypocritical, right? And honestly, I don't know if in the long term he's doing the best thing for their company, unless they were just planning on taking this to the distance at some point and using whatever leverage they've generated to try and sign the best deal possible, right? In that case, maybe so. But the issue is that he's made themselves look so bad in the process. they're dragging the whole industry through the mud with this thing, right? People are gonna have to show up and provide things and give statements, testimonies, and like the whole regulatory bodies and the places like the CMA and people like CMA and groups like that are now paying more attention to the gaming industry than they ever have before, right? There's if it had been less opposed, other companies that are also looking to do acquisitions in the future may also not be able to because of how Sony's acting with this deal. So they're making a lot of enemies with the partners. They're making a lot of enemies with people in the industry. They're making enemies with their own biggest partner they've had for a long time in ABK. And I feel like they're just shooting themselves in the foot in the long run, and it's not going to necessarily help Sony because at the end of the day, if they want Call of Duty to be on their platform still, they're either going to have it as ABKs or independent still, which is more than likely. ABK is going to sign marketing rights with Xbox anyway in the future, even if the deal doesn't go through, because they've burned that bridge with Sony. So the same impact and the same effects will have happened to Sony anyway. And instead, they're just like left like, well, we've made an enemy of them. It's not gonna be harder to get those marketing rights. It's gonna be harder to do this, harder to do that, harder to do all these deals. Now also, it's harder for us if we want to potentially acquire another big studio or a publisher in the future. It's harder for other people too as well. And they're just isolating themselves into this box, making a sham of everything going on with consolidation in the industry because they're trying to protect their interests in marketing rights for Call of Duty at the end of the day. It's just not a good look, in my opinion. Like, ultimately, will it maybe get them the best signed deal possible with Microsoft for Call of Duty? Potentially. And maybe after that, all things will be, hey, we're all going to be buddies now again. You know, we're all going to be buddies. Hey, let's do this. Let's do that. But in the meantime, you know, it's not given a good look, especially when they keep signing these exclusivity agreements for games like Final Fantasy 16, Final Fantasy 7 Remake, other games skip Xbox left and right all the time, right? It's not a good look when they're doing all that, right? Um, Tom says, I think they make more money from COD than they'll ever admit, and they are worried about losing that revenue because Microsoft will change all of that. They're changing that themselves because Microsoft was willing to do that 10-year deal. At this point, as Lulu Chang Maservi, I think is the last name said, it showed on that meme, they're shooting themselves in the foot right now. They're putting their own stick in their own bicycle spoke and causing themselves to trip and fall with not Call of Duty access on PlayStation. Now, will Call of Duty still be on PlayStation after this, regardless? Yeah, but the likelihood of marketing rights after next year is not very likely at this point, regardless, right? Like they're making enemies in the with the executives of ABK right now. So, is that a smart move by them? Because I feel like what they were trying to save is already fucked. Like they already fucked it up. Like they made an enemy of ABK, who was their biggest partner now. So you've already done to yourselves what you were trying to prevent by keeping those marketing rights. They should have started and spent that time focusing on what do we do going forward? Like without marketing rights of ABK, what other franchises can we get marketing rights for? What other companies can we invest in and like help to drive access to our ecosystem? They did do one with Bungie and getting that because they know whatever Bungie's next game is probably going to be huge. But they have fucked it up with Call of Duty, so they got to start looking for other things, you know? And that's what they should be mainly focusing on is just, guess what? The industry evolve with it, move, change, flow. Everything's fluid in gaming. A lot of people are against consolidation, right, in gaming and stuff like that, or they don't like companies being acquired and all this kind of stuff. Here, there's so many games and game studios and publishers either forming being bought from one another, closing down all the time in gaming. It is a massively fluid industry where there is not just one resource. The games are the resource, and the great games are created by people, right? It's not like there's a limited supply of games, right? As long as people exist, people will be making video games. And you never know when the next big one will show up and the next big game will completely take over gaming. Fortnite changed the industry. Destiny had changed the industry. Halo had changed the industry. Call of Duty changed the industry. There's like so many different examples of games that change things, right? And become massively popular. Minecraft, right? The next small company could create something that blows up and destroys anything any of these big publishers could ever dream of, or make more money than any of them could possibly make. And it could come from one person sitting there making something on his computer at home, right? That's what gaming is possible. That gaming has that potential, right? There's always new companies forming all the time. There's no concern about a monopoly in gaming. It is one of the most monopoly proof industries, right? Can you have dominant market share in a specific category within gaming? Yeah, like Apple with mobile, like Google with mobile, because they have those storefronts on lockdown, right? Like there's only two mobile carriers that matter, right? It's hard for another company to make a mobile device and ecosystem that is going to be successful, right? Because you have these two massive players. They've cut everybody else out. Those are the people you got to be looking at. Microsoft's trying to open that up, right? That's why Google's such a bad ally for Sony to have with the CMA and the EC. Because they're the ones that are actually created this atmosphere that needs to be challenged. Microsoft is actively trying to challenge that, right? They're trying to open those ecosystems up because they've tried to do the mobile thing. They failed because Apple and Google, right? They try to do this, try to do that. So they want to put their games on Apple. They want to put their games on Google. They want to put their games here and there. They want other people to as well. They want everybody else to be able to do those same things. Microsoft's willing and showing that they're willing to do that by doing these deals with these companies and stuff. So ultimately, this is a bigger play at like other big tech and against them than it is Microsoft, right? Microsoft's trying to make a push against those guys. You look at the amount of money made from in gaming, it's Apple. It's Google. More than the platform holders. It's crazy. Yeah, you're right. GTA changed the industry. That's right, J-Mac. What's up, J-Mac? Don Sicario says, could Sony lose the 10-year if they don't agree to the terms before the regulator's decision? I don't know. It depends on. I think if it goes down to the CMA's final decision and they still don't agree to something, then I don't know. It's a good question. What if the CMA approves it without Sony agreeing to that concession? What if they shoot themselves in the foot so much that they know they think the CMA is going to block it, but the CMA approves it and says like, well, everybody else says it's okay but Sony, and we don't trust Google, so the Nvidia thing was sufficient enough for us, right? Like I don't think that's going to happen, right? But what if that did happen? The hypothetical there, that would I think Xbox still brings the Call of Duty to PlayStation, but they have no like long-term necessarily agreement to have to do so, right? Decado says 3 industry-changing IPs are at ABK: COD, WoW, and StarCraft. That's correct as well. Yeah, and you got PlayStation has their own as well. You know, you got Spider-Man, you got God of War. You know, you have Uncharted, you have massive properties, right? Last of Us is huge right now. Like the show on HBO is like one of the most watched shows. Period. It's one of the most talked about shows, and it's their property, right? So it's interesting to think about everything that's going on with this whole ABK deal, with the CMA, with all that stuff, right? Um, Jasper just forgot about Overwatch. Yeah, Overwatch is there too. People saying it's a flop. I don't think so. I think it's still being played quite a bit. Sup, Splin? What am I doing up so late? Well, I am doing two things. I'm enjoying my Reese's Animal Crackers. We're talking ABK. We were talking Starfield. Probably going to start playing some Midnight Suns here soon. Highlander001, thanks for the $5 super chat. Says Bobby Kotick is a petty man. He will get a couple million if the deal's blocked. And if the deal goes through, he will get at least a few billion. Bobby Kotick's going to ride out on the sunset one way or another. Not that he deserves it. He definitely does not deserve that. He definitely doesn't be able to deserve to be able to cash in so much and all that kind of stuff. You know, he's not a great guy. But there's no way around the fact that he's going to get millions and millions and millions of dollars no matter what he does, right? I mean, he started that company. Technically, I don't know if he didn't like actually started. He like acquired it when it was like dead for like nothing, and rose it up to be one of the most prominent publishers in the world, right? So he's going to cash out on this if Microsoft buys it. If it doesn't, if they don't, like he's gonna Bobby Kotick's gonna be fine financially. So the whole riding off into the sunset, like, you know, golden parachute thing from Microsoft is somebody was gonna acquire ABK. Right? Somebody was gonna acquire them. Be it Tencent, be it who knows who. Somebody. They were in talks with three other companies that they were in discussions with. Just other people weren't willing to match what Microsoft was willing to offer. All that stuff was public. They had to make it public as part of this agreement. Ghost of Toshiba. Ghost of Tsushima. Yeah, that's a great game. Nate says, what if Sony buys Take-Two after the deal? They do have a $20 billion war chest of their own. Does Sony have enough money to buy Take-Two? I don't know if they'd be able to. That I mean, it possibly, but how much is Take-Two worth? I mean, I think Take-Two's worth more than that, isn't they? So Take-Two Interactive market share or market cap. Let's see what they're worth right now. Take-Two is worth right now $109 a share, which is equal to 18.44 bill. So in that scenario, I don't think they'd be able to do it for that 20 bill, even if they used all of it, because these game companies are selling for more than what the market cap is. That's what has to be enticing enough. So you probably got to offer like 27, 28 bill for Take-Two. It's at 109 per share. You probably got to do like 130, right, per share, somewhere around there. That's what I would assume, right? At least to make it enticing enough for them to sell. In the last 5 years, their high was 204, and they're around where their low, a little above their low. Their lowest was 88 in 2019. Right now, they're sitting at like 109, right? So I feel like you got to probably hit around like 120, 130 a share at least. Like when ABK got purchased, they were at like in the 60s. I forget exactly how much, but Microsoft got them for 95. Because they're not just buying based on like amount that it's worth today. They're acquiring based on projections, and they're selling based on projections. Yeah, Jasper says they would go for like 25 bill. Yeah, and they exactly they ain't gonna. Sony can't do that. I don't think. Maybe. I mean, maybe it'd be more of like, you know, I deal with a bunch of other things in play, like I think they're more likely to buy Square than anything else, right? What's up, Big Cloud? How's it going, dude? The question is like, will Sony buy a publisher? Um, maybe, you know, maybe. I think they could. Who knows what they'll do though? But they ain't gonna do that until after this ABK thing deal is finalized, one way or another with Microsoft, because they're gonna fight it till the end with CMA and all that kind of stuff. And if they will go out and acquire a publisher now, that's just like shooting themselves in the foot for all their challenges that they've made. Um, yeah, SofaKing says people forget that they have a monopoly on anime streaming services they have to maintain. Yeah, they got what? They got Crunchyroll, right? Chipmunk says if they're using these market terms right now for Microsoft, there's no way in hell they would allow Sony to purchase anything like Take Two or EA. Yeah, and I don't think they would. I don't think Sony would be able to. I mean, possibly, but who knows? You know, these companies surprise me. Like WB Discovery merger, right? They didn't have all that money. It happened in other ways. Like it happened with like debt and stuff like that. You know, so you never know, but I don't think it'd be likely. EA was been looking for somebody to actually either merge with or to acquire them, but EA wants to still maintain their own like they want control, right? They want control. Question is if ABK doesn't happen, does Microsoft go and acquire a different publisher at that point? But you would need to for them this they became so attractive because of King and all the other aspects that I don't know if there's like another for one company out there that gives everything that Activision Blizzard does. That checks all their boxes. That's why I think they made this deal. And will there be other acquisitions? Yes, but I don't know if they're like if they're not gonna be like ABK, you know. In the environment it's in right now too. I think you're seeing less of that stuff anyway, just because the economy and the values and what's going on there. Maybe in a couple years you'll see another uptick. Tom says there's a reason the majority of Sony buys are studios who are just starting out or only have one or two games out. Bungie is the exception. Yeah. Um, but Sony's really good at pinpointing like studios for great value. They're going to make a huge impact, like Insomniac. The fact that they got the Insomniac for what they did is crazy. I mean, they absolutely amazing acquisition there from them. I don't know. Do we know how much Microsoft paid for Obsidian? Did that ever become public? Because Obsidian to me is like sort of like Insomniac for Sony. But when they announced the acquisition of Obsidian, it was like with other studios also. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Obsidian acquired for how much? I'm going to look that up. We ever find that out? Oh, it's just looking up like, hey, you can buy Obsidian for $5 to $12 per kilogram. That's not what I'm looking for. Let's see. Trying to find out. Microsoft acquires Obsidian Entertainment. 2018. How much? How much did Microsoft pay for Obsidian? Was it ever disclosed? Because it's a private company that they acquired, right? I mean, we don't know how much. I don't think we know how much they paid for Double Fine. We don't know how much they paid for Obsidian. We don't know how much they paid for Undead Labs. We don't know how much they paid for In Exile. We don't know how much they paid for Ninja Theory. So it's hard for me to put like into perspective Insomniac, right? I don't think we were having those discussions back then, you know? But Insomniac, we found out how much it was, and it was like, what? Microsoft missed out on that for that much money? You know what I mean? But maybe like they also got great deals on all these other companies in the past. Yeah, I don't think they ever disclosed it. So we don't know how much, right? But those could turn out to be equally good assets as Insomniac is for PlayStation, right? Like Obsidian's already created Grounded, which is wildly successful with a small team, while they're still making their other primary project Avowed. They also announced Outer Worlds 2 is coming. Obsidian's already paying off like crazy, right? Ninja Theory, if they hit that game this holiday, that Hellblade 2 could be wildly successful. The thing is with Game Pass, all of these companies that they've acquired, all these individual studios, have a chance to find a much larger audience than they've ever had before. So these studios are getting all propped up to a position that they've never been in. Like even Arcane was talking about how they've never had a game where they know that this many people are going to play it day one, and that's making them nervous, right? Highlander says those studios were under $90 million as they did not need DOJ or FTC approval. Yeah, just all individual acquisitions for private companies, right? ZeniMax Bethesda did, but they felt there was really no challenge there. That progressed, but that progressed swimmingly. It only took a few months, I think, for that one to go through. This one, they knew there was going to be a lot more pushback with ABK, and we're still in that process. The thing about the ABK deal to this point right now, like remember, Microsoft anticipated the closing of this deal in around June of this year. Everything to this point is still lining up to that. There's really nothing that's ever changed. Right? Like they've anticipated phase 2s, all this kind of stuff. Exberg says, "Do I ever sleep?" Yeah, actually so last night I had stayed up for over 20 hours the last time I was awake, and that was off of only about 4.5 hours of sleep. So I had gotten 4.5 hours of sleep, then I was up for about 20 hours. And then I fell asleep, slept in today. I slept in late. I woke up, I had a headache, and I went back to bed. So I slept in really late today. So that's why I'm here now. And yeah, I gotta still wake up early in the morning and stuff. So, but it is what it is. Chipmunk says it would be wild if it actually does finish before June. It very well could be. There's some experts that say like May. You know. What's up, Poison Maniac? How's it going? Don Sicario says that buy WB Discovery as a wholesale off their news division and keep the rest movies DC TV checkmate. Man, we want to talk about stuff that would have been way more exciting than ABK. Way more exciting than ABK would have been WB, and especially WB Discovery. That would have been way more exciting. You know, I personally, if you're actually asking me if I care if Activision Blizzard like doesn't go through as a gamer, like the only detriment to me if that happens is like you know what? Like those games, I'm not going to get in Game Pass. I was looking forward to the savings there, but like, it's not like I'm going to be like, oh my God, this is like so bad for me. You know what I mean? I do want it to get approved because I think it should be allowed to get approved to go through, and I think there's good benefits for all of us as gamers with that deal. However, like it's not the end of the world if it doesn't happen. Um, I question what the fallout of that would be. I question what Microsoft's other second plan B is there, right? All of a sudden, if that deal doesn't go through, they got $70 billion almost to spend, minus the $3 billion that they have to pay. They don't. I don't think they'll just want to sit on that cash. So they probably split it up between okay, gaming and the other divisions, right, and make different acquisitions or do different things in the different sectors that they have. But that they'll have a lot of cash freed up to do some stuff with, and I hope they give a good portion of that to the gaming division to just fuck over Sony. Just say, hey, Phil, hey, you had 70 billion. We were gonna buy ABK. It was gonna change the game for Microsoft, whatever. All this stuff ain't gonna happen. Whatever. So you know what? We're gonna take like 35 for the rest of Microsoft here. Hey, Phil, take 35 here and just use it to fuck over Sony because they fucked over us. So take 35 bill. Just figure out what to do with it and all the best ways to punish old Jimmy Boy over there. They get as many exclusivity agreements as you possibly can. Go out there and hey, buy some other smaller publishers that PlayStation can't cry about. Go ahead and do all these things. All the games that they're paying for Microsoft to not have access to now. Go out and offer way more money for Game Pass Day 1 deals. Like just 35 billion. Have fun with it. Fuck over Sony as much as possible for a couple years, and they'll rue the day they challenge us again. Yeah, but hopefully they don't squander it. That's right, Plushy. Ubisoft, man, they should pick up Ubisoft and put all those employees in the Call of Duty mines. Oh my gosh. Ubisoft is a disaster. Did y'all hear about the 10? There's like, what was it, 4 more or 6 more like Call of Duty games are in the works. So like they're making like 10, or not Call of Duty, Assassin's Creed, making like 10 Assassin's Creed games. I mean, holy shit! Talk about one-sided. Talk about having a narrow vision for your company. That sounds like what Activision did with Call of Duty. Now, all of a sudden, everybody's just working on Call of Duty, right? Whew. I mean, you're talking about everybody at our company, Assassin's Creed stuff. I mean, it's crazy. 10 games. Now, granted, some of those studios, I mean, you're talking about a several year plan. So some of those studios might be making more than one of those. Highlander says Ubisoft has 20K employees. Think Microsoft can handle that? No. I don't think they want any part of it. I think Ubisoft right now is kind of untouchable because they have no. When you buy a company, you want to be buying a success or somewhat of a. You think they're going to be a success. Right now, I think there's so much doubt in Ubisoft and the leadership there, and not just like the high up leadership, but leadership of a lot of the studios and stuff. That's all kind of permeated down from the Guillermo family. That what you're acquiring at that point is like diseased. You know what I mean? Like it's got all these issues, and I feel like ABK's it has some issues there, obviously, with everything that was going on. But ABK's issues were more with just with culture, not necessarily the decision making on how to make video games. So Black John says, isn't there a company with 49% stake in Ubisoft? So not in Ubisoft. The 49% stake is with the Guillermo brothers company, right? So the Guillermo brothers own, or they have the primary stake in Ubisoft, right? So that's Yves Guillermo, his brother, and whatever else, right? So they have a company, and that company is the primary shareholder of Ubisoft. And I think it's like 13%, 17% shares of Ubisoft, right? So the Guillermo brothers are the primary shareholder. It means they have more shares than any other entity, so they're the primary decision makers, right? And they wanted to retain that. They wanted to retain that, but they were struggling. Guillermo brothers needed money, right? They didn't want to be acquired by a larger entity, so the Guillermo brothers took a 49% stake, had Tencent come in and buy a 49% stake in their Guillermo Brothers company, right? As a silent partner, kind of. You can call it that if you want. So the Guillermo Bros basically sold half of their company to Tencent, and they're the primary decision maker still. I mean, Guillermo Brothers are still within their own company, the primary decision maker. And then that company owns the 13 or 17% share of Ubisoft still. So basically, the Guillermo Bros, I mean, Tencent owns almost half of the decision making power within Ubisoft, but they don't have a decision. They don't have the say so. Like because they're at 49 and the Guillermo Brothers are at 51. Right? So Guillermo Bros is trying to hold on to that 51%, right? If that injection of cash from Tencent helps them like stave off whatever other acquisition attempts or hostile takeovers or whatever, because it like basically injected cash into the company. But it's an interesting situation because after that happened, China increased or increased their stake in Tencent, the country of China. So now technically China is has stake in Ubisoft. Not Tencent, but China. Interesting. It's all very interesting, right? And that goes for anybody that Tencent it has a stake in or has shares in, whatever. Like Tencent's like got their fingers in a lot of different things, right? And China now has shares of Tencent. Whew, crazy. Highlander says, I retired at 35 and it's how you make money. Stocks and bonds. Interesting. Um, Tom for Tonami says, why does their name make me think of Amanda's show skit with Drake and Josh, where Josh goes, boss, it's the Al Dente brothers and they got eggs. The Guillermo bros. Yeah. Didn't know. Didn't know. Okay, let's see. Whoever goes after Ubisoft, Tencent will be the next. Sony crying to regulators. Yeah, interesting. Um, yeah, so Highlander says Tencent owns 14% of Ubisoft, and part of the deal, the CEO cannot change the CEO and not sell for 5 years. So that share that Tencent has with Ubisoft is, I think, separate than the other amount that they have within the Guillermo Bros company. It's a whole tricky situation, right? If I got it wrong or whatever, I'm sorry, but like this is from what I remember, they have the Guillermo Bros have a separate company that has actually the investor for them within Ubisoft, right? Ray says I think Tencent will buy the rest of Epic Games first. Yeah, be interesting. Um, yeah. Chipmunk says just wait till all Xbox game studios start to only work on Halo. Yeah, that would be crazy. Um, Poison Maniac says, have I seen the provisional findings breakdown? Yeah, I did, and it's just all the same basic stuff. Um, God Emperor SofaKing says Ubisoft can be turned around. Hmm. I hope so. You know, all it takes is one big game. The thing is, like, Ubisoft keeps experimenting with all these different things, all these different games, and they keep kind of falling short, in my opinion. Right? I mean, you have all these different things they announced, and we talked about like concerns about Ubisoft then 2 years ago. Not a lot of people were talking about it yet, but they had started having these waves of announcements of games that were like not their tentpole franchises, not their big things, but they were all not typical games. They were all like these service based games and these free to play things and all these different things. And they had that Hyperscape game that came out and flopped, and they had a couple bad launches, you know, as well. And they keep doing this stuff, and it was like concerning. It's like, where's their identity? You know, the Assassin's Creed is the only identity they've had now because they've abandoned most of the other games. We got Rainbow Six Siege going into its like eighth season now. It's like what 8 years of the same game again. Like we got Rainbow Six Extraction, but that was even a smaller experience. Like, where are your big tentpole franchises and the big releases for them? They fucked up the Division 2 with ending support for that, and then they put a shell company on it that they had formed, and then they even have now like moved on to other things. They fucked up with the release of the last Ghost Recon, putting out a broken game that was really messed up. They've since fixed it. I actually think Breakpoint's decent now, but they just keep like making all these big mistakes, you know, with their big franchises. We went a whole generation without the biggest icon of the brand within the Clancy brand was Sam Fisher without Splinter Cell. They went a whole generation without a Splinter Cell game. Like how how do you keep excitement for your things when when you either fuck up or stop making the things that people love about your company? The only thing that they've somewhat gotten right is Assassin's Creed, but even then, Valhalla to a lot of people, even though it was a good game, was not their favorite Assassin's Creed game. I mean, let's be real there, right? And then you say, well, we got 10, you know, Assassin's Creed games in the works and planned, but we don't know what the hell we're doing with the rest of our franchises. Remember when remember, sorry, not last generation, day before, got to go way back. We got to go way back. Remember the 360 generation? You have the Rainbow Six Vegas 1 and 2. You had Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter 1 and 2, then Future Soldier. You had Splinter Cell Double Agent. You had Splinter Cell Conviction. And you had Splinter Cell Blacklist. I mean, you had all these games coming out, right? Then you had your Assassin's Creeds also, right? You had your Assassin's Creeds started in that generation. You had all these things going. And then you hit the Division even. And then the Division 2. Like, you had all this stuff going. And then all of a sudden, it all just disappears. A Far Cry. A Far Cry is like the last remaining, like, big franchise that they've kept out with, like, a big normal release, it seems like. Besides Assassin's Creed. I mean, where is the proper Rainbow Six game? Where is the proper Ghost Recon game now? Where is the proper Splinter Cell game now? Where is the Division 3? Now, instead, we get announcements like Ghost Recon Frontlines. We get announcements like we get games like Rainbow Six Extraction, which I actually kind of like a little bit, but that's not going to do it for the masses, right? We get potential like Splinter Cell reboot. I mean, they announced it, but there's another fuck up. You want to talk about really screwing shit up? Yeah, another one, Jasper. Tom Clancy Hawks and End War. Yes. You want to really talk about screwing stuff up? For years and years and years, people have been waiting for that Splinter Cell announcement at like an E3 show, a Ubisoft show, whatever. right? We were all waiting for that, like the big moment. You could hear those goggles, yeah, and the crowd would just fucking erupt and go crazy, right? All of that stuff. Ubisoft has their Ubisoft Forward last year without Splinter Cell present. But guess what they had done before that show? But a couple months before that, they announced Splinter Cell reboot finally is in the works via a blog post. What a fucking waste of an opportunity to generate hype and excitement for one of the most like requested games ever. The Splinter Cell return. Everybody wants to see it. People want to see that franchise come back. Metal Gear Solid is like, who knows what the hell's happened with that right now? It's been missing for a long time. They completely missed the boat in capturing and holding down the fort on the stealth genre, the spy stealth genre, right? Like they could have had it to themselves for a long time now. They fucked it up. And then when they do announce their game, they do it in a blog post. They robbed everybody of that moment. Now maybe they'll still do that, but now the cat's out of the bag. They're making it, and we hope it's going to be good, right? It's hard to have a lot of faith in them. It's hard to have a lot of faith when they put out like betas like the X Defiant shit, like Ghost Recon Frontlines got announced and canceled. They announced the fucking Clancy's Heartland, like which is a Division type game, sort of. I mean, it's Division agents and it's like a free to play type experience thing, but it's not the Division, you know. It just keeps screwing up, man. And I don't know, man. It's like the decision making within Ubisoft, within what they allow the creators at these studios and creatives to make, is all based on how can we monetize the fuck out of this? And if it doesn't fit the best way for monetization, we're not going to make the game. Right? It seems so forced. Let's let these guys make the shit they want to make. I guarantee you're just going to start having success again. It's just a complete wrong way of thinking from the high ups there at Ubisoft that's diseased the entire company now. I don't know. They're going to be fine on the Assassin's Creed stuff for a while, but at some point, people are going to get sick of it. People are going to get sick of it at some point. Speaking of that, I got to also call out, while we're calling companies out, I got to call out Rockstar. I got to call out Rocksteady. Regardless of what I think about Suicide Squad, it's irrelevant. A lot of people are going to like it. I'm probably going to like the game still or whatever. You know what I mean? But here's where I'm giving two companies, Rockstar and Rocksteady, some flack. So two studios that start with the name Rock. You know, Rockstar is owned by Take-Two. You know, make GTA, Red Dead Redemption, Midnight Club, classic, massive, amazing, one of the best studios of all time. Love them. Love Rockstar, right? Rocksteady made some of my favorite games of all time. Owned by WB. They made the Arkham series. Been waiting 8 years now that they got Suicide Squad coming. I got to call out those two studios, and I got to call out the publishers of those studios. I got to call out WB with Rocksteady, and I got to call out Take-Two with Rockstar. And here's why. We've had the last couple years now on this generation of consoles. We've had so many games get updated for free. With free updates, whether it be FPS boost or next gen updates, 60 frames updates, and all these different things. We've had definitive editions that you pay for. We've had remasters. We've had all these different things across the board, right? Whether it's paid for, whether it's free, whatever. And you're sitting there. Rocksteady has one of the most iconic franchises of all time last generation and before with the Arkham series. Rockstar has Red Dead Redemption. Now they keep putting out GTA stuff. They keep supporting GTA this, GTA that, all that stuff. How are you going to have Red Dead Redemption, which is up there for a lot of people, one of the best games of all time? How are you going to have the Arkham series, up there to a lot of people, one of the best franchises of all time, and not give them this treatment that all these other companies are doing. You saw Witcher 3 recently get this treatment. You've seen lots of different games. I want a 60 frames next gen update for the Arkham series and for Red Dead Redemption 2. I don't want to hear any excuses. No excuses. No excuses, period. Point blank. Why aren't they there, WB? Why aren't they there, Take-Two? Why aren't they there, Rocksteady? Why aren't they there, Rockstar? Give it to us. At least if you're going to resell us to them again, those are iconic franchises I think people would even be willing to pay for. I think you should give them to us for free. Free updates. Free next-gen updates. I think so. But even if not, those are games like the GTA 5 Series X expansion or update that was like $20 or whatever. It's amazing. If you play that today now, it holds up better than most games. Honestly. $20, I honestly feel like that was worth it. I don't want them to charge. I'm just saying, like, holy shit. Support Red Dead Redemption 2, and you'll see traction on it. Like GTA. Maybe not to the amount of GTA, but you gotta support that. Just like, I'm sick of this shit. Like, give us the fucking updates on these games, man. You got these consoles smash the hell out of everything that was capable before. Let us play these games to the optimal experience. Please. I'm not a PC gamer. Right? I don't got a PC that can do that shit. My Series X is capable. People that got a PS5 are capable. Update them. Update these games. Let us play them again and experience these. Because if you do, those games still hold up better than most games this generation. Point blank, period. Alvin with the $5 super chat says, would WB force Rocksteady to make a games as a service while they allow Avalanche Software to make Hogwarts? Seems so weird. Agree with your takes. Thanks, Alvin. Appreciate you, dude. Yeah, and here's the thing. I think Rocksteady is a fantastic studio capable of making games at a higher caliber than most other studios, right? So how much of a games as a service is Suicide Squad? I don't know. That's not even necessarily just the part that I care the most about. It's more about the style of the gameplay for me. It seems like maybe it's a forced way to make a games as a service because that's why they chose the Suicide Squad IP and all that kind of stuff. However, like Suicide Squad kills Justice League, I'm sure it's going to be fun. I'm sure it's going to play great. I'm sure it's going to have great voice acting. I'm sure it's going to have good graphics, all these different things. I'm sure it's going to have a good story because Rocksteady is talented. Rocksteady makes good games. They said targeting 60 frames as well, so that put my concerns there to rest. My only issue with that game is it doesn't look and feel like a Rocksteady experience to me personally. However, we'll have to play it and see. It's just not what I'm looking for them. Cosmetics and stuff like that. If you say if you put the cosmetics in the Arkham games and I had ways of getting cosmetics for Batman and all that shit, I would be okay with that. Right? I would be completely fine if, like, in Arkham's Knight, if there was a pass you could buy potentially and unlock things by doing challenges within the world to equip shit for Batman, right? That wouldn't ruin the game for me because it would be completely optional. You can do it or you can't, right? My whole thing with Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is based on the style of gameplay. It is not what I wanted to see from Rocksteady, right? But I do think you're onto something also, though, with like Avalanche Software making Hogwarts. But it turned out that was the right decision. It did turn out that was the right decision, I guess. What was an interesting decision was having WB Montreal make Gotham Knights and having Rocksteady make Suicide Squad. Which, if you look at the history there's some interesting history with this shit. Right? Don Scaria says the city of Arkham is a character in itself. Metropolis looks more cartoony. Yeah, I agree with that too. Like I found this history here at some point, and I really feel like I should read it if I could bring it up again. So I'm gonna look up suicide. Maybe it'll tell it squad kill the Justice League game. I'm gonna look up the Wikipedia on it. Maybe it'll tell the history here. Development. Okay. Okay, here we get into some interesting things, right? So listen to this. A video game based on Suicide Squad was first announced by DC Comics chief creative officer. Hold on here. I got to bring this up so I can see it. Okay, so again, a video game based on the Suicide Squad was first announced by then DC Comics chief creative officer Jeff Johns in July 2010. So back in 2010, they knew they were making a Suicide Squad game, right? In July of 2010. And that was from the DC Comics CCO. Okay. In February 2012, this is 11 years ago, he elaborated that the game was in development, adding that because of the concept, you have a game where any of the lead characters can conceivably die and it's not a stunt. Some really cool story could come out of that. The formation of the Suicide Squad was teased at the end of Batman Arkham Origins in 2013. Remember who Arkham Origins was made by? It was made by WB Montreal, which featured a post-credit scene in which Deathstroke is asked by Amanda Waller to join the team. And in Batman Arkham Origins Blackgate, in which Deadshot and Bronze Tiger joined the team with Bane under consideration. In the years since Batman Arkham Knight was released, there have been rumors suggesting that WB Games Montreal was working on a Suicide Squad game. But no official announcement was made from the development team or publisher. In December 2016, so this was 4 years later, or 6 years after the original announcement that they were going to be making one. And then 4 years later, that after he had already affirmed that it was in development, in 2016, December of 2016, Jason Schreier, then working for Kotaku, revealed that the title was canceled. So in 2016, they canceled the Suicide Squad game that was in development from WB Montreal. Then 4 years later, Rocksteady Studios announced Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League in August of 2020. Rocksteady, the creator of the Batman Arkham franchise, was initially rumored to be working on a Superman-themed game. So, which they later debunked. The first trailer for the game premiered at DC Fandom. I remember that. It's set in the Arkhamverse. Plot threads established by the Arkham series, including Joker's death in Batman Arkham City, and the public revelation of Batman's identity as Bruce Wayne, Batman Arkham Knight, would continue in Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. Okay, so that was the synopsis for that game. Okay, so now I want to go to Gotham Knights. WB Games Montreal was originally, remember, making a Suicide Squad game. Okay, so let's see if I can find the interesting stuff here. No. They don't have the stuff on here. But anyway, basically what I had read before was that Rocksteady was going to be making something else. And then after the cancellation of that basically their other project got canceled. Rocksteady's game got canceled. And Suicide Squad's game got canceled. And pretty much they switched IPs. And then like WB is like, hey, Rocksteady, you're gonna be making Suicide Squad, and like WB Montreal, you're gonna be making this other Batman style game. But you're not gonna be making it with Batman. You're gonna be making it with these other characters. Just interesting. Infinite Umber says, Matt, do you sleep, bro? Yeah, bro. What's up? I sleep. I could sleep. WB Montreal is currently working on a Batman game, Corey says. Plus, she says, so the article is saying Rocksteady never pitched a Superman game. It says that was debunked, that they debunked that. I don't know. A Judge Dredd game made by Rocksteady would be fire. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, that would be fire. Always wanted a Ninja Turtles Rocksteady game, like in that dark, gritty nighttime, like New York City. You know, like you go under the sewers, you could come up above, and like more of like that dirty, gritty, like almost like the way that movies looked back in the '90s. You know, um, like it would be badass. You know, it must be all the marching keeping me up. Yeah, bro, we're still marching. If you check out earlier on the stream, we were having some fun marching a little bit, talking about March and Starfield. We also went and talked about ABK. It was CMA and hypotheticals. I just don't understand some things regarding that people say there's no recourse against the CMA. I don't know if that's true or not, but like I don't feel like one regulatory body should be able to hold so much weight to the world of business. You know what I mean? Um, Corey C says I always wanted a Punisher video game or Spawn. Yeah, that'd be cool. Punisher, they would have done a great Punisher game. Man, I would much rather seen that. Spawn would have been badass too. The last Ronin TMNT story is very gritty. Yeah, that'd be badass. I still want that. Whoever can make it, like, guess what? There's a hole left now, right? Rocksteady. Well, I was looking for that for so long. The next thing they were gonna make to fill that gap in out there for that dark, gritty superhero open world, story based experience, right? Now, maybe some of that will be in Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, but I think the gameplay ruins that aspect for me personally, right? So, for me, now there's a hole in the market. Rocksteady didn't fill it themselves. Somebody needs to come forward and fill that, and maybe they can do something with that. You know, an IP like Ninja Turtles or something, maybe Punisher or whatever. Corey C says Transformers is an untapped IP as well. There is a Transformers game coming. Yeah, Jasper, you're right. WB Montreal is making the Wonder Woman game. Yes, that's what they're making. It's gonna be interesting to see how that turns out. If it didn't get canceled. Yeah, there is a new Transformers game coming this year. It's like isn't it like a MMO? Jasper, is it like a MMO? Like a multiplayer MMO thing? I forget what it's like. There was a trailer at one of the events this year. It's a newer studio, I think. Actually, this game originally had an interesting history. It's moved from like studio to studio to studio, I think. And no, I think it isn't actually. Is it Sumo Digital now or somebody that took it over? I forget. I forget who took it over now, but somebody took over the development of it. But I think Certain Affinity was originally making the game. Transformer Reactive. Transformer Reactive. They had a really cool trailer. Transformer Reactive trailer, 4K UHD. Okay. Yeah, I could watch. We could watch this trailer real quick together if y'all want. I mean, I'll read you about it. Uh, it was at the Game Awards. Splash Damage is making it. I forget what's the last thing that Splash Damage made. Were they the ones that did that finished or that worked on Crackdown, or was that Sumo? Can't remember. I'll read about it first and we'll watch the trailer. Yeah, Transformers Reactive. An online action game coming to PC and consoles. Transformers Reactive will have players explore a fresh new story within the Transformers universe in a press release detailing the new project. Splash Damage claims Transformers Reactive will allow players to fully immerse themselves in the universe like never before, and will have the option to play as some of their favorite characters from the franchise as they fight the Legion. No release date was announced, but Splash Damage plans to hold a closed beta for Transformers Reactive sometime next year. So this was in 2022. So there should be hopefully a closed beta at some point this year. last game was a game called Outcasters. Corey Cecil Splash Damage worked on a lot of good games. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna pop this trailer up here. Display capture. Oh, let me do it on this. We're gonna go to our live react screen. Hey, look at that, everybody. See the Game Awards stuff in the background? All right, I'm gonna pop this trailer on.
Meanwhile, on Paramount.
Now. Okay, I'm just go to YouTube. What's a good YouTube trailer? Okay. Hold on. This is not what I want to see. All right, here we go. I gotta adjust this because I had messed it all up before. Here we go. Da, da, da. All right, we're gonna watch this trailer here. I was planning on playing some fucking Midnight Suns, but I've been having fun just chatting with you guys. Let's see. All right, there we go. Webcam. I make myself smaller. Here we go. Sorry, attention to details. Attention to details, everybody. This is gonna be like, this has got to be a highly anticipated trailer for you guys now. If you haven't seen it before, all right, it's really cool. We're gonna watch it now. Play it. I'll shut up. Here we go. I'm a cowboy on a steel horse I ride.
Let's get lucky.
I'm a cowboy on a steel horse I ride. I'm
wanted. All right. That's Bumblebee. That's got to be Bumblebee, right? Yeah, that's the trailer. No gameplay, nothing like that. Yeah, what'd you guys think? Huh? What do you think of that trailer? Does it get you hyped for Transformers? How did you miss this? Yeah, it's a game that's coming. Yeah, it's a game that's coming. Who knows what it's going to be like? But I think Certain Affinity originally was working on this game, and like somebody else took over development of it. Potentially, because that was what the rumor was. Nate Polis says, "Is there a new Wolf game in development?" A developer on LinkedIn said they were working on it unannounced alongside Indiana Jones. Wolfenstein. There's supposed to be a Wolfenstein 3 in the works at Machine Games, and that should be hopefully announced in the next year or so, or I don't know. That's what the rumors are. I don't know. It's all rumors. It's all speculation. But there's been strong speculation about Wolfenstein 3 for a long time. Yeah, Portal. I remember the War of Cybertron games. Absolutely amazing. I loved them. That was High Moon Studios. Licensed games that Activision did, and you know the High Moon was a developer on those. I love the games, and it's studios like that were capable of so much to make these great Transformer games and all this stuff, and now they're relegated to fucking Call of Duty support, right? Like High Moon Studios deserves better than what they've become, what they've been relegated to, right? Like all those studios working on Call of Duty stuff, like it's one of the best things that could happen from the acquisition of ABK is if people like High Moon Studios can go and make their own games again. I would love it. I feel like licensed games are making a huge comeback. Star Wars and Marvel primarily this generation. DC as well now. I mean, licensed games are bigger and better than they ever were before. Indiana Jones is coming. Last gen there was some stuff, you know. This generation we're seeing these licensed games come out and really be good, big releases treated with respect. Back in the day, Activision's licensed games were all shitty games, usually released around a movie launch, and they're all rushed and stuff. But you had your highlights, like Raven Software. I think they did like a Wolverine game that a lot of people liked. You had your stuff like the Transformers games that were good. You know, you had some highlights out there for sure. Jasper says Transformers Fall of Cybertron has top 5 game trailers of all time. Right on. I don't remember what the trailer was like. Corey says, I just saw the trailer for the mobile game that Alpha Dog from Bethesda made, the Doom mobile game. They must be a small studio. I wish they were working on real games. Yeah, they were one of the teams that came, that's part of the acquisition and stuff from Bethesda. They're also another studio there called Roundhouse. Alpha Dog is more of a mobile studio, but Roundhouse is making like a regular game. And we don't know what it is yet, but there's rumors that it could be potentially like a licensed game. And there's also another game, the ZeniMax Online game is being made. We don't know. That could be a licensed IP also, or it could be a brand new IP. But it's probably one of the two. AJH says, High Moon and Vicarious are the reasons Destiny ran smooth as butter on PC. Now Bungie are with Sony. We getting straight up ignored for updates. Yeah. Yeah, I think Roundhouse is... Oh, maybe that game will be ready to announce soon. Who knows? That's the thing now with Xbox having so many studios. You don't know where these games are in development. What all these different studios have in their pipelines. Like, so many damn projects. And Bethesda's ZeniMax, they got to announce their games just as much as the traditional Xbox first party studios got to announce their games. Do I ever get tired of talking about ABK Portal? No, not really. And here's what I get the sentiment out there. People are sick of it, all this kind of stuff. But whenever like that happens, I just think about what a unique thing this is and how big of a thing this is. And I've been following gaming news since I was a little kid, right? I was always reading the magazines, and when I finally got internet when I was older, you know, I was always going to the gaming websites, and every day I was just like, check all my sites, all my things, to get all my magazines, all that stuff. I was always looking at gaming news, and I always like found it interesting and like what these companies did and how they operated and like what was going on with different platforms and all these different things, right? Seeing the trends that happen over time, and you start to learn these trends as you follow news for so long, right? But I can tell you one thing. This situation has never happened like this before, right? It's a very massive deal. It's not only a massive deal for gaming. I mean, this is like, it's the biggest acquisition in Microsoft's history. Microsoft, one of the biggest companies in the world, biggest acquisition in their history. This is one of the biggest deals ever in gaming. And it has a lot of implications on the future. And not only that, but it's exposed a lot of the things behind the scenes that's helped us and me even learn more about how this industry works, about what these companies think of each other, how they fight each other, how all these things happen. It's absolutely fascinating to me to see this all unfold at every step of the way and learn a little bit more and speculate a little bit more about what's the next thing. What does this mean? What does that mean? You know, like, how does this argument hold up versus this or that? We may never get an opportunity like this again to have something unfold like this in front of us while we like it. For me, it's amazing. Like, I just absolutely love it. crazy. But yeah, I am ready. Once it's done, it'll be even crazy. Like you said, Decado is sure I'm ready. Like everyone else is for it to be done. Then it's until then it's newsworthy. It's newsworthy, and when it's done, it's going to be even more interesting for me because when it's done, we go to those next steps. Like, what does this mean for these studios? Are they going to bring back these IPs? When are these libraries of games coming into Game Pass? What games are going to be on other platforms? Right? Like, how are they going to handle the mobile side with King? Like, all these different things are just going to be so fascinating. You know? Love it. You're only hyped for all the backwards compact games from ABK and Game Pass and the future games that don't involve just COD. Yeah, for sure. As Poison Maniac says, I didn't know that if COD goes away, Sony dies, apparently. I love talking. Corey says, I love talking gaming and gaming with cool people, and the Xbox community is the best. Kind of say, yeah, I think the Xbox community is really good. Love it. I want to be a fly on the wall if the merger goes through for that meeting, Decado. Yeah. Yeah, Portal says the Xbox said they won't be adding more backwards compatible games, but who knows? They said that before they decided to buy a $70 billion company that has a large backwards compatible library, like a large library they can bring out. So previous statements made from Xbox prior to a $70 billion acquisition mean nothing to me. Like, when you, as a company, when you acquire a company of that size, it's not just a regular acquisition. It's a transformative acquisition. ABK is going to not just be a part of Xbox. It's going to help transform Xbox into whatever this big thing becomes. Any statements regarding plans they had over certain aspects beforehand could change because at that point it's a different company. You're acquiring a $70 billion. You're making a $70 billion acquisition with different infrastructure, different things, new things are possible. You got all these different IPs that you didn't have before that all of a sudden sitting there. They said the reason before why they were moving on from backwards compatibility is because they pretty much ran the gamut of what was possible for them to do that they had control of. This changes that. Like, new things become possible with this over lots of different facets. So, any statements made prior to this don't matter, really, at the end of the day, because after ABK gets acquired, Xbox is a new company. Same company, but you know what I mean. There's more to it than that. Like it's much different animal at that point. It's a much bigger beast. Different things are at play. New things are possible. So who knows what's going to happen, right? Transformative acquisition. It's not just adding pieces. With ABK, it's not just adding pieces like Call of Duty. You're not just adding IP, right? It's not just adding a few dev studios. I mean, this is a transformative acquisition. Anyway, speaking of licensed games, I said I was going to play this. I haven't even gotten around to it yet because we've had so much fun chit chatting, everybody. Thanks for everybody for hanging out tonight. Speaking of licensed games, I got one right here in Midnight Suns, and I want to play a little bit of it. I put it on the description for the stream because I thought I was going to be playing like a while back, but You know, these conversations have been awesome. Thanks to you guys in the chat. Appreciate you all. Yeah, added 14,000 employees to Xbox. Yeah, it's crazy. I think they have like, I think Steam is like the by far the number one for, but they're still played on Windows, right? So Windows as the platform is holds a big stake in gaming, but the actual App Store for Microsoft, no. How is Venom, Staccato? Um, the movie? Oh no, the character. So I haven't downloaded him yet. I know he got unlocked in Midnight Suns. I haven't tried him yet. I think it's like part of the story. I don't want to like skip ahead or whatever. I haven't even checked into it. It's a good question. Let's see here. Random says, when is Bungie's next game coming out? That's a great question. I have no clue. They've been working on it for a while, I think. I fucking love this game. The easy mission. To defeat a nest mother. I like going with the ones that are like epic, you know. You know what? Hold on. Before I do that, I need to go make sure I do my coil analysis and shit. This is such a good game, everybody. It's on sale right now, I think. Somebody said in the chat a little while ago it's on sale. So, I think I already did this. I'm not sure. Okay, I did.
Good day, Hunter.
Good day, sir. Pet Charlie.
Who's a good girl? It is my Charlie girl.
So Jasper says not till they finish Destiny 2. 2024 is the last DLC. There you go. Right on, Jasper. Jasper's always bringing the knowledge. I always fucking make wrong turns in this building. All right, here we go. All right, we gotta do Captain Marvel. You think Halo's gonna have a really good year this year? There's some hype around season 3 right now. They just gotta carry that momentum, right? I think what they say is like is it like a 18-week season? They're hoping to get to 13, but 18, is that what they said? 18? At least 18 is a lot better than what it was. What was it, like 24? They gotten halfway there then from their previous. Yeah, they just got to keep it up. Just got to get that momentum going and keep it up. Have you beat this game yet, Jasper?
Hydra has been running some kind of field tests in the area, and that device is the key. They would rather destroy it than let us get our hands on it, so it must be important.
All right, let's see here.
Those soldiers are targeting the device. Do whatever it takes to stop them.
Enemies that display this indicator will attack the device. Got it. Chain 2. Do it quick.
Nice move.
Yeah, you finished it in December. Of course. Okay, all right. Okay, so I can kill that guy by doing that. I remember that. Okay, chain 4. Taunt. If I taunt those guys, they won't target the thing. That one's okay. I need to taunt this guy. Let's go. You need XCOM 3 already? Yeah. XCOM 3 would be sick. Okay, I'm gonna redraw this one. Taunt each enemy in an area, gain 1 counter, play 1. Okay, I want to get my moves, my heroism up the most possible. So I got 2 heroes in there. What's up, Ghost Fixer?
Interesting.
All right. If here, I can get this guy and that guy probably. Or I can just blow that up. And then I can kill him with that. I do have another move too, so can I just... all right. Okay, so that'll kill that guy. I want to get rid of the mimic. Shit. That takes 2. Okay. What? It's a move to the other side of the long box and kick dog into him. I was just gonna do this. We'll have the 1 mimic left, but it'll be all right. I'm just gonna blow this up, get rid of this guy. Ooh, is that gonna damage this? Oh shit. I didn't realize that. I don't know if that damages that or not, but I was trying to find out. Okay, it didn't say any damage. All right. And I can still kill the dog, get rid of that. Or what happens if I do Nico? Do a little bit more damage on the big guy. That doesn't kill the dog. I want to kill the dog. Fair enough. You've been playing as Vampire Survivor all day. Almost got most of the maps unlocked. Finally, that game is almost a drug once you're fully... Yeah, that game is sick. I haven't played in a while. It was like crack for a little bit. All right. No, nothing else to do, really. So. To battle.
Must have gotten Lilith's attention. She sent one of her more aggressive minions to put you down this time.
Yeah, somebody made the white run. I saw that, Ray. In Forge. Fucking mimic.
If he isn't the poster boy for toxic masculinity, I mean, come on. This one's for you.
Let's go.
I owe you a Coke.
Yeah, there's been amazing creations in this new Forge. Okay. Everybody's like so good. I'm just gonna I want to make sure I get the key card. I don't want to forget. Crossbones is here. All right, so now I can take one of these. Finish this guy off.
Not a problem.
I don't know if that messes up his targeting or what. I don't think it does, but I was hoping he would start taunting him. Yo, what's up, Justin? How's it going? Random says Starfield looks better than any game since Red Dead Redemption 2. Visually, or just like you're like it looks like the most like the best game.
You know, the other captain really isn't a fan of yours. You should hear the things he says about you. I've never heard so
Doing okay, just having some fun playing some Midnight Suns. We had a lot of fun conversations before I just started playing here a little bit ago. All right.
Not looking good for you.
In terms of grand scope and innovation, ambition, yeah,
That looked like it.
it's gonna be amazing.
Here we
Nobody makes me.
Bring it on, Crossbones.
What for this?
This game's so badass. All right.
Scared yet?
hell? Come on. Oh, I'm out of heroism. Fuck, that's right. Oh well. You need to make 200 gigabytes free storage for Starfield. I can't wait to see what the mods are going to be like for that shit. That game's only just going to get better over time, too. Like, I love that. So much to look forward to.
Pumped and full of hot air. But I'm guessing steroids.
All right. Might as well take a chance. What's it gonna be? Okay, 2 card plays left. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and do this one first. Get him out of the blast radius. One of those planets getting modded into a Halo ring. Oh my god! How about a Pelican ship? Right? How about you could do so much. You know, there's gonna be Star Wars mods and Star Trek mods. Of course, a lot of that stuff won't be on console. It'll only be on PC because you know. They won't be like approved to be in the console version because of licensing and stuff. All right, can I? Nico. Yeah, what would be your like ideal mod for Starfield? I mean, the obvious choice for people would be Star Wars. I'm trying to think outside the box here a little bit. Trying to think of space IPs. You want the Enterprise, Jasper? Of course you do. Doom? Be sick.
You were real scary a minute ago.
Unlimja? I don't know what that is. Stargate. That's a fucking good one. Stargate would be awesome. How about, I know some people might like Firefly. Or Serenity. Firefly is the name of the show, right? Yeah, Firefly. I knew that was coming, Razor. There's some that might, what's that show that's on Amazon that people like a lot? You could have just like a NASA mod, you know, like today technology type. You could have NASA and SpaceX and shit in there. Expanse. Thanks, Razor. Oh, Battlestar Galactica. That'd be a good one. Hmm. I'm gonna go out and say something crazy. I want a Marvel mod, and I want to be able to fly like in space as some of the characters that can, like Captain Marvel, right? But also, like if you do Marvel, you could have the X-Men, and you could have like Professor X's thing. You could have like the X-wing, you know, and you could go and like do missions as like X-Men or whatever. And I mean, it'd be insane. That ain't gonna happen. But like Marvel Universe is so like out there with all these different possibilities. You could also do something like that with DC. I think a Marvel mod and a DC mod would be really cool. But I agree. Guardians of the Galaxy would be fantastic. That would be part of that for sure. But you could just isolate Guardians as well. I would like there to be a Cybertron planet. That'd be fucking sick. What if you had a mod that just made individual planets that were all themed out of some of our favorite like worlds, like IPs? Like you could have whatever the fuck planet the Thundercats were on as like a planet, right? You could have Cybertron. You know, you could have like the Elder Scrolls planet, you know, stuff like that. We talked about. You could have Krypton. Yeah. WWE. Thomas the Tank Engine. So many possibilities. All right. Join a hangout. Let's go explore the grounds. Yeah, like man, you could do so much with this, with the space flight and shit. It just opens up so many possibilities.
About you that we didn't really know what to expect.
What did you hear?
That you were a godlike hero walking the earth, single-handedly holding back the forces of evil.
I wasn't even paying attention to what she said.
That is only part of the story. Caretaker forged me into a weapon. Agatha, she kept me grounded.
Same with us. Caretaker
Gotta work on that friendship.
Task at hand. Agatha reminded her we aren't pieces on a chessboard. I'm surprised you and Caretaker keep butting heads.
Make a Florida planet where the people are all crazy, Jasper says. It's just crazy men.
This is how it always used to be. If you are saying it was different, I was not around for it.
I guess everybody loves you when you're dead. Now that you aren't, the Midnight Suns have all dealt with Caretaker when she's prickly. If you ever need a vent, we get it.
Thanks, Nico.
Of course, what are friends for?
Music box. As a Floridian, I'd be honored. Right on. You just have like alligators walking around everywhere too. All right, time for her to hit the hay. Thank you all for watching the stream tonight. Appreciate you. What's up, Jacob? What we going on now? Like for time? Oh, it's 3 hours.
My favorite childhood prank, but I have not heard them in so long. Caretaker must be wincing right now.
Sunday night random
Maybe
stream.
This was her idea of a joke.
Hey, can I ask? New Blaze would come around eventually.
Upgrade a Dark Hunter ability. All right.
Do you remember
Gotta
the
collect all of our shit here.
young, I could barely
Gotta go inspect our coils.
any excuse to ring those damn things.
I wouldn't have thought so. It's good to hear those bells again after all this time. As hard as Sam
Right.
tried to keep you out of the tower, you always found a way.
Oh, gotta do this.
What's the latest intel?
Decrypt the cache.
Time to spill your guts, Hydra.
Fascinating info here. And by fascinating, I mean I want to...
Ooh, we can do a hero op.
Who are we sending on an op? If
I'm
we
gonna
were in
send.
the States, I'd say send them out for the experience. But I think we're past that.
Ooh, okay.
I'll do you a favor, just this once.
Send Wolverine. Gotta go analyze my coils.
Hey, Hunter.
Get some abilities.
Sometimes I even impress myself.
Ooh, Witch Storm. What's that? Is that a new one? I don't know if I have a show hero deck. Oh, okay, here we go. The Swarm I already got. I'm good there. Eviscerate. I am. Ooh, that's the Star Eviscerate though. I need that. Regroup. Just for block. Like that. Yeah, I'm gonna go with this one. Because that's gonna be the better one.
If you find more coil, send it my way.
Got it, pal. Godzilla Metaverse Planet for start. That would be, or Monsterverse. That'd be sick. Just fucking a planet full of
I still can't believe
what do they call them?
in the Abbey with us.
What do they call those monsters? A specific word.
That is one way to describe him.
I mean, the guy's the richest, smartest dude on the entire planet, at least according to his website.
Fucking hell.
You
What are
think
those big
maybe
monsters
he'd
called
do
in like that
us a
in that
favor?
universe?
You know, after we save the world, I mean.
Like in Pacific Rim, there's a word for it. There's a Japanese word for monster or whatever.
You are calm.
Oh, there's no if in that equation.
Kaiju.
Brother Gabe,
Thank
as
you.
long as
Kaiju.
you know.
Yes.
But there's no way.
None.
He's.
Stark.
Yeah.
Okay, also I need to do the upgrade the Dark Hunter ability, so I need to check and see if that's the thing I can do real quick. Do I have a double of any of those dark ones? No. That'll have to wait. Okay, Witch Storm, I want that shit in here. Empower. Store. Okay. I need to switch my eviscerates around. All right, here we go.
Well, you know what they say about.
You heard yesterday that Sony recently bought Legendary from WB. The Godzilla rights. Is this true? I have no idea. It's a good question.
Let's do this. Not everyone wants my advice, but
Combat therapy. Start. There. Oh, she got injured. Fuck.
If I must.
Okay. All those main tasks are done. I'm just gonna do an easy mission real quick, and then it'll be the last thing. Then I gotta go to bed, everybody. Let's bring Cap, and oh, she's coming, and so we'll bring Magic. All right, here we go. This will probably not be very long fight. You watch the MonsterVerse and regular love Pacific Rim as well. Hate the sequel though. Yeah, sequel was like not. I mean, man, what a good first movie, but they did fuck up the sequel.
You've been practicing, haven't you?
Punch. Let's go.
Good work. You shouldn't have crossed me.
Film rights are owned by Sony. Right on.
Whatever works for you.
I got 2 moves, so I'm gonna move once here, just so I can knock his ass into that. Oh, whoops. I didn't mean to do that. All right. Bring it on. Reinforcements.
This is still happening.
All right, where's Wanda? Oh, Wanda. There you go. I want them close. I can do my hex field. Are you fucking kidding me? I need to make that bigger.
I'm hoping you'll learn from them.
What if
But
Sony's
no,
buying
you
WB Games and not Square? Is Sony rumored to be buying a publisher? I forget about that. I remember there was actually some smoke about them and people assumed it was Square. So fuck, I should use that first. Forgot I even had that in there.
Someone order a double sandwich.
All right, can I do the move on him now? Too far. Fuck. Yeah, take it easy, Razor. Good night. Fucker.
Here I am.
Go.
A helping hand.
All right, let's move Wanda. Oh, shit. Can I get... we got all those in one area. Nice.
I'm on it.
As they say, it gets the job done.
I think it's gonna be the video games department that is the most successful for WB, actually.
Fear the Scarlet Witch.
We'll see how Suicide Squad does.
Nice work.
You're not going to.
Hopefully they learned their lesson, but we all know that's wishful thinking.
A little bit of midnight sunset in the night. We have a show tomorrow night. FSP, Fun Speculation Podcast. It'll be 10 p.m. Eastern Time. Jasper, Fuzzy, 3-Bit, Psycho. Should all be there, hopefully. We'll have some fun. Look ahead at the games coming out for the week. On Tidbits, doing the show. I always save this game just to make sure. And let's see, then Thursday we'll have PM in the PM. It was good, exciting news is at least by Thursday, if the smoke is true, if the rumors are all true, then we should have hopefully have that deep dive for Starfield announcement by Thursday. So there's bound to be some hype around Starfield this coming week, everybody. So we'll be talking about that for sure this coming week, as well as other stuff. Who knows what's going to happen? Every week's its own thing. Friday's Xbox Ultimate, 10 p.m. Eastern Time. Again, more hype probably around Starfield. And hey, maybe hopefully I can get some more game streams in this week. Thanks everybody for watching the streams tonight. I appreciate you all. You all rock again. Amazing for showing up and just talking games with me for a couple hours and getting into another like half hour to an hour Midnight Suns, whatever it was. But you all rock. Thank you again. See you all real soon. Thanks for tuning in to Fun Speculation. Hit the like button, share, subscribe if you like the content, and peace out. Bye, everybody. Good night.